Good morning, and thank you all for being here. This oversight hearing of the Committee on Health and Veterans Affairs is now called to order. The time is now 9 o'clock in the morning. It is Thursday, November 13th, 2025. Proper notice of this hearing was disseminated to all senators, stakeholders, and local media outlets in accordance with the open government law. Notices were also posted on the Guam Legislature's official website and the Guam Public Notice Portal. Today we are here to address the findings of the most recent audit of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. The audit highlights issues that many of our veterans, our families, and veteran organizations have raised for years, to include insufficient staffing, delays in claims assistance, gaps in data management and information security, challenges with the Veterans Registry, the need for a new office, and continuing operational strain at the Guam Veterans Cemetery. These are not new problems. They are long-standing and persistent, and they continue to affect the delivery of benefits and services to the estimated more than 24,000 veterans and eligible family members across our island. We also know that when government systems struggle, veterans turn to outside community groups for help. Some of these groups are accredited and well-trained. Others are not, and the audit makes clear that this can result in mistakes, delays in benefits, and in some cases, the risk of veterans being told to repay funds they already received. Our purpose today is not to place blame. Our purpose is to ensure accountability, transparency, and collaboration toward solutions. We will hear from the Office of Public Accountability, the Director of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, the Guam Veterans Commission. We did invite representatives from the Governor's Office, but we were told that they would not be attending today. We also invited the Office of Technology, but they did not respond to our requests. And more importantly, we hope to hear from our veterans. We will focus on what is being done now, what remains undone, and what resources or legislative support are needed to finally resolve these issues. Our veterans deserve a system that works the first time, not after months of waiting or years of promises. I thank all of today's participants for your presence and willingness to engage in this dialogue. Let us proceed with professionalism, respect, and shared commitment to improving how we serve those who have served us. Before we call up our panel, I'd like to recognize and welcome the members of this committee that are present with us today, starting with the Vice Chair of the committee, Senator Vince Borja, Vice Speaker Tony Atta, Senator Sean Gumatautau. We also have with us today Senator Therese Terlahi, Senator Chris Barnett, and Senator Tello Taitagui. Sorry, I couldn't see. As we move through today's agenda, I'd like to remind everyone that each senator will be allotted 5 minutes to ask questions or commentary. I'd also like to ask the public who will be speaking to please be mindful of the time so that we can get in as many comments and feedback as possible. We will begin by calling up our first group of panelists. Do we have anybody from the Office of Public Accountability? Please come to the table. Director San Agustin? Any representatives from the Guam Veterans Commission? Vince, will Is there anybody else from the Guam Veterans Commission that would like to join the panel? All right. Before we begin, we will have our Sergeant-at-Arms swear those who will be testifying.
Please stand and raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Madam Chair, you're under oath. You may proceed.
Thank you. We will begin with remarks from the Office of Public Accountability regarding the audit. Please speak clearly into the microphone and identify yourself.
Okay, good morning, Senators. My name is Vincent Duenas. I am the Supervising Accountability Auditor with the Guam Office of Public Accountability. Unfortunately, the Public Auditor is unable to make it today. He's currently off island, but as soon as he heard notice of this oversight, we got our team together and made sure that we are here to present or represent or even answer any questions the panel may have or any questions the public may have. Everything is stated in our 45-page report. What we've noticed in the past is always anecdotal information being said about this organization. What this audit does is it actually puts it in writing to see and what the issues that are going on with the Guam Veterans Affairs Office. Specifically, our office actually conducted this audit following numerous concerns and public sentiment that veterans may not be receiving the benefits to which they are entitled, as well as concerns about the presence of homeless veterans on Guam. While the audit identifies significant challenges, we do appreciate the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs' proactive approach as we have gone through this audit, and we want to acknowledge them and the issues that we presented and how they presented a corrective action plan. So we hope to hear from them today. Of course, we did issue this audit on October 20th, 2025. This is OPA Report 2511, and what it does is it details the results of a performance audit that we conducted on the administrative services of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. And just to kind of summarize it, the audit basically uncovered critical operational challenges, primarily stemming from insufficient staffing, inadequate office space, and serious deficiencies in data management and information security, all of which items that you put on the agenda that we hope to hear from, of course, today. It is estimated that the GOVA, the Veterans Affairs Office, services up to 24,000 veterans and their families, yet operates with just 9 employees, including 5 Veteran Service Organization representatives. The audit estimated that each VSR may serve up to 4,800 claimants annually. However, despite this workload, there's no system to track claimant assistance, and veterans, as you've probably heard yourself, routinely wait times of a month or longer to meet with the VSR. Basically, the main findings of the audit was that GOVA lacks the capacity to conduct outreach events or provide timely support, increasing reliance on, as you mentioned earlier, community-based or nonprofit organizations. Some of these groups lack the VA-accredited personnel, which exposes veterans to errors and potential financial liabilities. The other issue was the Guam Veterans Registry, which is required to be updated semi-annually, has only seen 2,196 entries since 2017. GOVA lacks procedures to reconcile the registry with its active files, leading to duplicate and unofficial registry efforts by the community groups and confusion among the veterans. Lastly, the cemetery operations are also hindered by insufficient staffing. Only 5 workers, all on limited term contracts, support these operations. At the time this audit was issued, 19 head markers remained uninstalled, and recruitment efforts have been slow due to qualification constraints. Again, and then one of the other items that you had on the agenda, that in addition to these staffing shortages, GOVA's administrative office is overcrowded, lacks ADA compliance, and does not have adequate storage for physical records. The lack of a secure, centralized digital record system places thousands of sensitive claimant files at risk. Veterans' documents are currently handled by unencrypted thumb drives and unsecured storage, significantly heightening the risk of data breaches, physical damage or loss, and the potential for fire or any other man-made or natural disasters. So that's the exposure. So that was basically, in a nutshell, what this audit revealed. I do want to commend the team that worked on it. Jarek Hernandez, he's currently off island also. Selena Onader Salas conducted the audit, and Carlson Ponce, who's sitting in the back. Of course, with the direction of the public auditor. With that, senators, thank you, and that's our remarks for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Selena, will you be making a presentation as well?
I do want to add, thank you very much, Senator and members of the committee, and thank you for this opportunity. I do want to add that through the course of our audit, we did, of course, notice...
Selena, I apologize, but could you introduce yourself and your
I'm
position?
Selena Onadera, Salas Accountability Auditor 2 with the Office of Public Accountability, and I was audit staff on this for this performance audit. And we do want to note that through the course, excuse me, of this audit, we did not identify a job description or a classification specification at the DOA website for what's supposed to be the Veterans Affairs officer who is to be the appointed classified administrator of the office. That position, according to DOA's website, does not appear to exist yet. The closest description would be the Veterans Cemetery Administrator. And in that description, we did note that that's where you see the qualifications, specifications for supervisory management experience required and cemetery operations experience. But we did not identify a Veterans Affairs officer position. So despite the enabling legislation which does include that position, we also do want to recognize that through the course of the audit, GOVA has pursued aggressive recruitment efforts for VSR positions and cemetery workers. And then finally, we did receive more than one citizen concern. One of the concerns was that the past administrators, or it appears that administrators for GOVA do not have managerial or supervisory experience or cemetery operations experience necessarily. There is also the concern that it's not just the Veterans Cemetery that we are aware of in PD. There is oversight as well of the Veterans Cemetery down here in East Agutnya. So, you know, with the limited resources, they're maintaining 2 cemeteries. And finally, the other concern is that with the community assistance of any other veteran or family member to submit a claim, that has created, as Vince mentioned, that has created some confusion with not just the registry process, but we've gotten feedback that some veterans have actually been instructed by the VA to return funds. We're talking upwards of 70 grand. And that's more than once that we've received that concern, that sometimes these errors not only extend the backlog that GOVA is experiencing with their VSR workload, but it extends, you know, having to go back and restart the process all over again. But GOVA has also explained to us that they cannot intervene until the claimant resubmits the proper forms to the VA adjudicating GOVA as their authorized representative. And so that also adds to the workload for the VSRs at the GOVA. But Sizos Maasi, I just wanted to add those comments.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Selena. Before we get to the GOVA director, Mr. San Augustine, there was an announcement that was made during the Veterans Day ceremony at the Governor Flores Memorial Beach Park regarding office space up at Agana Heights, and that GOVA would be moved there. And as most people know, the government of Guam purchased that property for about $2.3 million earlier this year. Now that announcement, it did come as a surprise to me, so what I decided to do was actually take a visit of this space, and I'm not sure if any of you have been there lately, but I'd like to play this video so that everybody here and even the people of Guam that are watching can get a first-hand look as well.
Hi, Hafaday. How long have you guys been clearing? How long have you been clearing here? When did you start? Yesterday was your first day starting work here? Right. What are you guys doing? Just clearing the whole property? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There's no parking down here. So the reason why I'm here taking a look at this facility is because during the Veterans ceremony down at EPAL, it was announced that this area, this building, was going to be used for the new GOVA office. So I wanted to see it firsthand and take a look at the structure. I don't know what kind of renovations need to be made in this facility. Previous discussions that I've had with the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, they had indicated to me that they were actually going to be taking up space here where, I'm not sure, and I'm not actually sure where exactly GOVA will be set up, whether it's going to be on this side or over here, or the entire compound. But again, as you heard from one of the workers, they just started doing work here yesterday, which kind of coincides with the announcement that was made at the Veterans ceremony. Hello again. Do you mind? I know you said I couldn't go inside, but if we could just open and I could look. Okay, yeah, I'll just look. Just look here. Okay, well, I mean, I guess it's not stopping me, so. Actually, it's a nice space. It really is a nice space. My concerns is the drive up here and parking space. That is a pretty steep hill trying to get here, and it's very narrow. During the oversight hearing, I hope that the governor's office will be here, and hopefully if they don't show up tomorrow, if the GOVA director can provide answers if there's going to be any additional renovations that are going to be needed to get them into this space. And if in fact it is enough space for them. But it really is a nice space. Is it ADA compliant? Probably needs some ramps. That probably be. I can tell you this much: it is a whole lot better than the building in Assen. I know we weren't supposed to come in here, but he let us in, so. Thank you, sir. Let's go ahead and show everybody the drive up here, because it really is really narrow. This is the parking. That's about it. This is the road right here to get here, and it's awfully steep trying to come up. Tomorrow, I think, hopefully we'll get some answers about the work that's being done here and whether or not there's going to be costs for renovations. Who's going to be picking up the costs for renovations? But again, this is where the acting governor announced during the Veterans ceremony at EPAL, where the new Guam Office of Veterans Affairs will be located. Which, you know, it's about time. I think we all can agree that the building in Assen, it's not ADA compliant, and it is completely unacceptable that they've been there for years. What I will say, though, is that I'm grateful that we are kind of moving things forward in terms of finding an office space for GOVA. But yeah, I think there are some concerns that I have regarding this space, particularly with parking and accessibility. But as you saw inside, it's a nice office. It's a nice space. But again, this is just a start. So thank you to Adelude for kind of finally pushing this issue forward. It's a long time coming.
Again, according to media reports, that property was purchased by the government of Guam for $2.3 million, I believe in February of this year. And that announcement was made during the Veterans Day ceremony that this location was where they were going to be moving the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. Director San Augustine, I anticipate that you will be prepared to give us an update on those discussions, but you may begin with your presentation.
Madam Chair, first of all, I commend you for going up there in advance and doing your own recon. I noticed that you did not have a parachute on. I just assumed you had your combat boots humping up that hill because it is a steep hill. But I thank you very much for sharing that video. Good morning, Committee Chairwoman Sabrina Salas Matanane, Speaker Frank Blas, who's not here, but Vice Speaker Anthony Ada for being here, Honorable Senators of the 38th Guam Legislature. And I want to first of all also thank you all, the veterans and their families, and all our partners that are here to be part of this hearing this morning. Thank you for your time, support, and continued dedication to our veterans and to the people of Guam. Your collective efforts continue to make a meaningful difference in the lives of those who have served our island and our nation. My name is Jose, also known as Joe San Augustine, and I'm a retired U.S. Marine with 30 years of service to our country. And before I go any further, 3 years within my career, I went from E1 to E5. 8 years within my career, I went to E8. 14 years of my career, I went to E8, E7, E8, and at 19 years, I became an E9 Master Gunnery Sergeant, which what I wanted to share before I continue my testimony this morning makes me a very qualified managerial individual. 30 years of service to our country, it is my privilege to serve as the Director of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. I am honored to appear before you today to provide an update on the state of the agency and to discuss the findings outlined in the recent audit released by the Guam Office of Public Accountability. The Guam Office of Veterans Affairs exists to serve those who have served. That is to advocate for our Guam veterans, ensure access to earned benefits, and provide the assistance, dignity, and respect they deserve. We administer local veterans programs, coordinate with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and provide critical support to veterans and their families. The Office of Public Accountability Performance Audit number 2511, released in October 2025, found that limited budgetary resources have long constrained GOVA's ability to meet its mandates efficiently and securely. Specifically, the audit cited challenges in 3 major areas: insufficient staffing to process Veterans Affairs claims, maintain the Guam Veteran Registry, and manage cemetery operations; inadequate office space that restricts growth, efficiency, and ADA compliance; and deficiencies in data management and information security due to the lack of centralized, secure digital system. These findings were not unexpected. They reflect issues that developed over many years, shaped by shifting priorities and limited resources. However, these challenges do not define where GOVA is today. In fact, the audit's conclusion closely aligned with our own modernization plan, which we began implementing even before the report was published. For the first time in decades, GOVA is undergoing a complete transformation to modernize its operation, strengthening accountability, and better serve our veterans community. In addressing the first major issue, staffing has been one of our most pressing challenges, but also one of our most significant area of progress. The audit noted shortage that could affect our ability to meet the needs of our veterans and their families. While these challenges remain, we have made substantial stride in strengthening our teams, thanks to the Guam legislature. Thanks to the support of the Guam legislature. Through Public Law 37-101 and Public Law 37-102, critical funding was appropriated to expand GOVA's workforce and operational capacity. Under Public Law 37-101, $340,000 was appropriated to hire 2 customer service representatives, 1 driver to assist with veterans scheduling, transportation, and general inquiries. Although we have been facing challenges with the pool of applicants due to limited listing from the Department of Administration, DOA, we have some small success with recruitment. The procurement for the ADA-compliant van is already underway through the IDIQ contracting process. Once delivered, this vehicle will provide veterans, especially those with mobility challenges, reliable transportation to medical appointments and essential services. Under Public Law 37-102, $1 million was allocated to fund the hiring of 6 veteran service representatives, 6 veteran cemetery workers, 4 of the VSRs, veteran service workers representatives, are already on board, with 2 more pending as we await the latest listing from the Department of Administration. 2 cemetery workers have been hired, and 4 others are currently being vetted by the Department of Administration. We have also identified a need for additional administrative support positions, such as clerk, typist, data entry staff, and building maintenance supervisor to improve operational efficiencies at the cemetery. Recruitment has not been without a challenge. Delay caused by the 180-day hiring rule and outdated licensing requirement have slowed the process, but we continue to work closely with the Department of Administration to overcome these obstacles. Despite these constraints, GOVA has now 10 active employees with 8 additional hires in process, which is the largest expansion of staff in recent memory. This represents measurable progress. At the core of GOVA's mission are veterans' claims. Our VA-accredited veteran service representatives provide direct support to veterans and their families seeking disability compensation, education, healthcare, and housing benefits. With the addition of new staff under Public Law 37-102, GOVA is poised to nearly double its claim handling capacity. This will allow us to reduce wait time, improve service quality, and ensure that the Guam veterans receive accredited professional representation when navigating the VA system. We continue to advise veterans against seeking help from unaccredited individuals or organizations, as errors in claim can lead to repayment notices or denials of benefits. To address this, GOVA is increasing outreach and education to ensure veterans are informed and supported by qualified professionals. The Guam Veteran Registry remains the foundation for identifying and verifying Guam's veterans population. As of fiscal year 2025, there are approximately 23,500 registered and verified veterans, with 231 newly registered between 2024 and 2025. However, the registry still remains maintained manually, which limits both accuracy and efficiency. That is why digitization is a central pillar of our modernization plan. Through our renewed partnership with the Utah Veterans Affairs Office, we are finalizing a memorandum of understanding to implement the Veterans Information System, which is a secure, centralized database that will automate the registry, synchronize it with the federal records, and protect veterans' information. At the Guam Veterans Cemetery, we continue to uphold the highest standards of dignity and respect to those who have served. Between fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025, GOVA conducted 340 burials, each performed with full military honors. We actively pursue additional funding through the VA National Cemetery Administration under the Veteran Cemetery Grants Program, which will provide up to $13.6 million for the expansion and improvement of the cemetery. These enhancements will add more than 1,200 burial plots and strengthening long-term maintenance and operations for the cemetery. Another major component of our modernization effort is improving our physical and technological infrastructure. Our current facility in Asan is undersized, lack ADA compliant, and cannot accommodate the agency's growing staff or records. We have now received confirmation that GOVA will relocate to the former Chancery building in San Ramon, Agani Heights, instead of the previous planned move to the Hessler building in Agutnya. The facility will also include a shared space where veteran service organizations can collaborate and host events that benefit our veterans community. In addition to facility upgrades, GOVA has begun major improvement in data management and information security. We have initiated multiple procurement for new computer systems, secure server, and IT infrastructure to support our transition to digital operations. We have also sought the expertise of legal counsel to assist us in drafting formal standard operating procedures and rules and regulations governing data protection and compliance with government law. These steps will ensure veterans' personnel information is handled and security and confidentiality it deserves. Every initiative from staffing expansion, claims, modernization, and relocation and data security reflects a unified vision of progress and accountability. These are not temporary fixes, but deliberate steps toward lasting institutional change. The challenges identified in the audit are being addressed head-on, not words, but through action and measurable results. For the first time in decades, GOVA is not simply maintaining the status quo. We are building a stronger foundation for the future. This transformation takes time, coordination, and continual partnership, but it is already shaping how we serve Guam veterans. Our mission remains clear and steadfast: to ensure that every veteran in Guam receives the support, services, and respect they have earned through their services. With your continued oversight and support, I am confident that together we will achieve that goal. If you will allow me to just read this. As you have indicated, Madam Chair, that the ADALUP had indicated our move to the Chancery. ADALUP is working closely with the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Administration, and the Guam State Clearinghouse to finalize the space allocation and use plan for the former Chancery property. While the original plan was to move GOVA to Hessler and relocate Department of Public Health and Social Services, the Chancery site was identified as far better fit to meet GOVA's operational need and the property use conditions. This marks a major win for Guam's veterans community, one that has been long overdue. For the first time, the Office of Veterans Affairs will have a permanent home designed to accommodate the additional staff who will be managing veterans' benefits and support services. The new location will also provide dedicated space for Guam's many veteran service organizations to meet, collaborate, and coordinate efforts, particularly the Veterans Commission, which plays a major role in guiding the veterans-related initiative. The Lieutenant Governor has prioritized and assigned this project to the Chief of Staff with the goal of having GOVA fully relocated and operational at the Chancery by February of 2026. This milestone reflects the administration's continued commitment to honoring the service and sacrifices of Guam veterans by providing them the stable, dignified space they deserve. In addition, we are addressing the ADA compliance and the parking challenges that we are aware. So with that said, I'm open for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. San Agustin. Before we get to questions, the Guam Veterans Commission, would they like to make some comments? I'd also like to recognize Senator Chris Duenas, who is with us today.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Vince Santiago. I am the second chair of the Guam Veterans Commission, and I'm also the president of the 3rd Marine Division Association Guam chapter. Senators, I want to thank you for your time and, definitely your dedication to our island and, more importantly, our veterans and our families. Just covering some points, Madam Chair, regarding some of the things that caught my attention is the security of data management. That is no small feat, no small feat. And anybody that has done anything dealing with computers understands that. There needs to be a lockstep process in how we secure that data. It just cannot be, we're moving forward. Okay, we need to pull a full court press to ensure that our PII is properly secured at all levels. So that is one concern. The second thing, Madam Chair, and I also mentioned this to the GOVA director, and we also talked about this with the Veterans Commission, is regarding the Guam Veterans Registry. I can tell you, we will be hard-pressed to get a solid confirmation on numbers on the island of Guam, and this is the reason. Because veterans have a choice. We have a choice to whether or not we want to register. And I mean, that's our right, right? There's nothing mandating us to register as veterans on this island, nothing. So how do we get around it? How do we get around taking care and, more importantly, accounting for our veterans and our families? This is my recommendation. As we exit out of our military branches of services, the Department of War has an accountability of where we are going to be, right? Our home of record, where we're going to end up, right? Because that's where our checks are going to be sent to us and to our families. So instead of us trying to figure it out, why don't we just go to the Department of War and ask them to send us anybody, whether they're Guamanian or from the Micronesian Islands or our neighboring islands or from the states who want to call Guam home, ask them to send us the data of anybody that wants to retire on the island of Guam, and I guarantee you're going to get a better understanding of the quantity of veterans and our families that are here. But right now, it's a guessing game, right? It's who you ask. It's who you ask. You can go to the CBOC and ask them how many veterans we got. That's only veterans that go to the CBOC. You can go to GOVA and ask them. That's only veterans who are willing and want to register on the island of Guam as a veteran. So right now, our numbers are flawed. Our numbers are flawed. But now that we realize the flaw, let's get after and ask the Department of War to give us that data. That's my recommendation. Now, I want to address the VSOs. Oh, man. Since I've been part of the commission, I haven't been part long. I'm probably one of the freshman members of the commission. But that's no excuse. I can either complain about it or be about it, and I choose to be about it. So the VSOs, the commission, we knew that it's an issue on the island of Guam. I mean, you really look at it. 5, 6 on the island of Guam that are taking care of veterans and their families, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So what do we do as a commission? We're looking to train more VSOs. And how we're going to do about it, we're going to our veteran commissions, okay? We're going to our veteran organizations, and we're asking them to identify one person in your organization to be trained. Now, I can tell you probably where we messed up. This is probably where we messed up, and this is just my own education in how we did it last time, is that we didn't have a clause signed by those persons who were getting trained, because there's a step in which we get trained. So you receive the training and then you get shadowed. Okay, Mr. Chris Tarrant could probably correct me when it gets his time to speak. But you have to be shadowed. If you don't complete that shadowing, right, by a certified, experienced VSO, then you don't get accredited. So what do? We wasted that opportunity. We wasted that opportunity. And more importantly, we didn't do any justice to our veterans. So let's understand the process, and let's hold those people who are volunteering to become VSOs accountable, to provide that support, more importantly, that opportunity to our veterans and their families. So that's regarding the VSOs. The other thing that, GOVA director and the commission is how do we reach our veterans? How do we reach them, right? Do we have them go to one central location? The answer to that is no. So what we look to do, right, with GOVA and in partnership with our mayors is to go out to the mayors in their villages and set up satellite touch points throughout the week, right, with that coordination between GOVA and the mayors. So that way our veterans in the villages don't have to drive all the way up here or try to find transportation to file their claims. That's the way we get about doing it. Now, are we going to get it right the first time? No, right? We have to move from good to great. We have to. But the only way we get there is by trying. We have to at least make the attempt. So I believe that's how we get after going after the VSOs. The other thing I would tell you is controlling the narrative. Man, we do a horrible job. We are doing a horrible job. We got veteran organizations that have cracked the nut in controlling the narrative, right? And they are doing a phenomenal job educating our veterans. I applaud them. But it's not about a scorecard. Within us as the veteran organizations that make up our island, it's not about a scorecard of who's doing better. Because if that's what it's about, man, we need to take a look in the mirror, because we're fooling ourselves. Everything we do for our veterans is not about keeping score. It's about taking care of our veterans. So we should not and cannot be confused about that, okay? But those who are doing it, man, I applaud them. And I tell you what, it's worth emulating. It's worth emulating. Now, I can speak on 3rd Marine Division, the Guam chapter. We just started to rebuild our own organization. We started to rebuild it. Okay, we're moving out, and it's not just a bunch of people getting together and talking about stories back when we were E3s. It's about what are we doing now as veterans for our island and for our people. That's what we should be getting after, and that's what 3rd Marine Division Guam chapter is doing. So I have to address this, okay? Joe San Augustine, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. He said Joe achieved the rank of Master Gunnery Sergeant in 19 years in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is one of the smallest branches of service, and it's a reason. Not everyone can be a United States Marine. Not everyone wants to be a United States Marine. But those who do, they do it well. So Joe San Augustine is a Master Gunnery Sergeant. I'm a retired Marine Sergeant Major, and believe me, personnel is my responsibility. So Joe, as a Master Gunnery Sergeant, in 19 years, speaks volumes of his expertise. Now, he just is not just a master of his craft and his MOS, but he has to understand personnel. He has to develop his people so they may be promoted while they serve. It's not just coming to work and punching a clock, right, and being a master of his skill. He's got to take care of his people. He also has to advise whoever his reporting official may be, and that person may be a 06 colonel to a 4-star general. That's who he advises. So when we talk about managerial experiences, it's not just one person. Now, don't get me wrong. Joe is the director, and he needs to be held accountable, and anybody else that fills that spot. You need to be held accountable for everything that happens and fails to happen within your organization, and that's just us as Marines. And we accept that. We don't put blame on our people. We take the blame and we move to contact, we make it better. But the only way you move from good to great is by doing the work. By doing the work. So the Guam Veterans Commission, we are moving to better what it used to be known as. It's not just a bunch of group of men and women who are coming in and griping about, woe is me. Please. This commission, the elected officers that are in position now, and some of them are sitting in this room, we are moving out to make things better, but it's not easy. It's not easy. Because we, as veteran organizations, we have to be better. We have to be better, and we can't please everybody, and we understand that. And personality conflicts exist, but we have to get over that. As veterans, we have to get over that. We have to, for the betterment of every veteran and our family members. But more importantly, man, for the island of Guam, we need to be the example for others to emulate. We, Guam, veterans of Guam, we have to be the example. We got to wake up every morning and push that I believe button. I believe in who I am. I believe in what I can do for our island and our veterans and our families. And I believe every veteran organization should be doing that if they're not already doing it. But I can tell you right now, you look in this room right now, and the veterans in this room who are part of those organizations, who represent their organizations, we know the answer. We know the answer. But collectively, all of us together, man, we just need to kumbaya each other. We just need to do it. That's all. That's all. And I truly hope that we get the results sooner rather than later, because we've been waiting too long. We've been waiting too long, and then believe me, I've only retired in 2021. But it's been an uphill battle, and I'm grateful that the committee and our elected officials are supporting the veterans. But it's an uphill battle, and that uphill is a tough fight. So please continue to support us, continue to ease that travel that others are not willing to do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, elected officials and the people of Guam. And to my fellow veterans, happy belated Veterans Day. Love you all. Semper Fidelis, Ara.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. Mr. Doran.
Thank you, Senator Matanane. And thank you all for being here and paying attention to our needs. We greatly appreciate it.
Please identify yourself, your full name, and what organization are you with the Guam Veterans Commission?
My name is Chris Turan. I'm the commander for the American Legion. I'm also the secretary for the Vet Commission and district quartermaster for the VFW. First, I'd like to, I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to let us talk about these issues, okay, and perhaps add a little bit of clarity from our perspective. But before I get started on that, I'd first would like to say that as a secretary of the commission, dealing with some health problems, I've kind of slipped on my duties and not been as effective as I could be. So I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Jojo Meno because without notice, he's got my back and make sure things have been moving forward. Okay? So him and Joe St. Augustine, they have been making tremendous strides with very little to work with. So I think we got the right people for the right jobs there. Now, areas that I'd like to address, one is to talk a little bit about the staff problems. The numbers have been pretty much kicked around, but also the identification of particular job types, I think they need to be modified to fit those job titles. Currently and historically, there's been people who are coming aboard as an administrative secretary, basically, okay? But then they're expected to learn the responsibilities of a VSO or VSR. They're required to take on computer duties. Okay? They're required to take on duties that support the commission with little recognition and no reward, okay? Which I think is one of the underlying problems of them keeping good and qualified people. We here on Guam, we are used to giving more than what's expected. Okay? But as far as having an effective organization, then we need to have the right people in the right positions. They need to be recognized for that, get the proper training, and also compensated. Okay? If I can segue into that as far as concerns the VSOs, part of the problem has been pay. Okay? Since they're, to my knowledge, and I'm not an HR expert, but there is no job description for a VSO. To my understanding, these guys are still doing secretarial duties on top of VSOs, so they can only see maybe 1, 2 on a good day of the veterans, and you got 24,000 to get through. That's not a enviable task. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Title 38 code of the federal regulations, but it's a huge book. Okay? It talks about the VA regulations, the rules, and all of the requirements that the VA needs to, the veteran needs to go through in order to get their benefits. And these folks in these positions are charged with having to learn this knowledge on top of all the other knowledge they got to do with all the other assigned duties that they have. And there is nothing that rewards them for this other than a pat on the back. Okay? So I think it is my hope that the HR people will look at creating additional positions or modifying duties. An example I can offer is I joined the Air Force in 1974, and you had admin people who just did clerical work. Then as the computer age progressed, then comms was filtered into their job, but also with the training and rewards that go along with that, meaning they had to train on how to manage manage and operate a PC. They had to train on the use of the software and handling all the data information, so on and so forth. So I think there needs to be a little more extensive look at the actual manning and staffing that they need down at GOVA. Recently, I went to the cemetery website, okay, and I thought Ted Muggan had left the government, but obviously he still works at the cemetery because it hasn't been updated, because he doesn't have personnel on his staff to do that update. He has to go to the, what's the name of the department for the computers? OTEC. He's got to go to OTEC, and hopefully it's important enough for them to pay attention to it. Okay? I think the office, the department is underserved by not having somebody who can go and do those things. And also, it's not very interactive. Okay? One of the reasons I went there is because Veterans Day was coming up, and I was getting inquiries about events that were going to be occurring at the cemetery. There was nothing there. Okay? The only method of communication on that website is to email someone. Okay? There is no name or person you hold accountable. It just says email, and then it goes to a generic email. I never got a response. And more than likely, they're probably too busy to give me one, based upon the short manning. As far as VSOs are concerned, I did a little quick analysis there, and the pay range nationwide is between $42,000 and $100,000+, depending upon how rich your community is. Okay? But on the average, most of the people, the majority of them, operate between $42,000 and $61,000. Okay? Now, again, I'm talking off of knowledge that was shared with me, and I don't know it to be true, but to my understanding, if we hired somebody as a VSO for GOVA, they probably are making $10,000 less than the lowest person in the States. Okay? So we need to get realistic, because if you expect people to learn and understand federal regulations and abide by them and give proper service to our veterans, then they need to be compensated in a manner to which the workload is I'm sorry, I'm just a little frustrated. And also, let me speak a little bit to training. The training for VSOs or VSRs, okay, is basically a three-part deal. You've got the first part where you are actually learning the duties and responsibilities of VSO. You're learning about the regulations, the forms, and so on and so forth. You've got a second part, whereas you have to take training from the VA in order to utilize their web-based systems so that you can input your client's information, and on top of that, you're able to follow it and actually do some good to help your customer. And then the third part is the hands-on training, which we're all familiar with OJT. We have to get with a accredited VSO. You got to do so many hours and so many services for different veterans in order to become completely certified. Simply, you don't become certified simply because you took the first two courses. Okay? You still got to do the work so that you have knowledge about how to handle the different cases that come up. And then we also have to address ongoing training. Okay? Because the initial process is you're filling out forms, they submit it, you say, hey, VA, I'm out here, I want to make a claim. Okay? Then you have to supply them with all the information that they need. And something I learned when I went for my operation here recently, you got to learn to speak VA, okay? Because they don't speak the same common language that the average person speaks, okay? And so I had conversations, I actually kind of got mad a little bit and yelled at the VA rep there in Honolulu because she wasn't, well, we were talking past each other, okay? And the phrase was need. The key word was need. Okay? And so as a soldier, grew up on the flight line, you adapt and overcome, as with Marines, with Army, and so on and so forth. And here on Guam, going through typhoon after typhoon, you don't complain, you just adjust, and you get the job done. Okay? And so when you go to the VA and you talk to them like that, then they're going to say, oh, you don't really need that help. And they're going to deny you. You know? And so that's basically what happened to me. They denied me having somebody go with me for a hip replacement operation for support. Okay? And then after the operation, because my pain was so much less, they were going to cut me off on the pain medicine because in my mind, I'm comparing before and after. In their mind, they want to know about right now. And so that part of the training is where it takes a lot of time for a VSO or a rep to understand how to correctly communicate in order to ensure that their customer is going to get the best results that they can get from it. Okay. Moving towards developing the VSO staff and the guys we're talking about, we are working with the Vet Commission, we're talking about and talking to the office here to develop a method of integrating the VSOs at GOVA along with VSOs in the other organizations. The key portion there is going to be standardizing the initial training aspect of it. Okay? The working out, as my friend Mr. Santiago mentioned, that working through Mayor's office, we need to begin to develop a cohesive communication and method of getting this done. Okay? So far, it's been, well, one group does this, another group does that. We need to all operate as a team in order to get the most effective use of our facilities and the limited personnel that we have to get veteran services out to everyone. Okay? One of the problems, and well, honestly, I'd been part of that problem, is communications and getting the information out to all the people, which is a very difficult task, and it has to be done consistently and often. It has to be repeated because a lot of veterans don't believe they have access to the things that we have access, which myself, I didn't believe. I grew up without health care. The emergency room was my doctor. So now as a retiree, I've got all this health care. And in the beginning, I didn't know how to manage it. Okay? Now I've gotten better, But one of the challenges in that aspect is the fact that now everything is pretty much done online, and a lot of us veterans don't have access to the internet or skills. Maybe we've got a computer that's 25 years old, okay, so it doesn't handle all the current software. So we have to find ways to where we can set up locations, if you will, where people can come in and they're able to access that the equipment that they need in order to get the job done. Okay, and we can do that through the veterans organizations, through the we can do that through the mayor's offices, GOVA. Okay, it's like I said, all hands on deck in support of this mission. Mm-hmm. And let's see. The final thing I'd like to say is, hopefully, I mean, this audit was a really good beginning, okay? And now I've gone through the list of tasks that have been assigned so that we can develop a complete plan to overcome all the obstacles that we have. And I look forward to, and we have a plethora of management experience within the Guam Vet Commission that we can bring to bear to help flesh out a detailed program. But after we do that, then we're going to need your help to make sure this thing comes to fruition so that we can achieve our maximum results with all the resources that we have. Mm-hmm. With that, I conclude my speech. Thank you again for giving me a few minutes to share what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Torin. We have the chair of the Veterans Commission, Mr. Roy Gamboa, with us. Yeah, we need to swear him in.
Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I will. It is.
Madam Chair, he's under oath. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pakaigwe. Roy?
Hafide, good morning. Roy Gamboa, GY671 President, and also the current Guam Veterans Commission Chairman. My apologies for the timeliness and showing up. I was on a Zoom call with some of our VA partners. Testimony that's been given this morning, both by the director and the fellow commission members here. I won't repeat it, but I'm going to say it's not an easy job to be a director or an administrator for any agency. Many directors, many administrators have sit here after an audit, and I tell you, there hasn't been one that has come through absolutely spotless. So the great thing about an audit is you get to identify the shortfalls. You get to identify the shortcomings. And I tell you what, with Joe at the helm of GOVA, I think it's right and it's fit for him because as a Marine, we are the lowest funded branch of the service in the United States military. We're given a box of crayons and told to figure out what to do. Go fight a war with basic tools. The commission has changed, not necessarily changed, but we've had to adjust based on budget cuts. We've had to adjust on some of the timeliness on procurement. We know that's another hurdle that needs to be faced by this body. The commission is affected by those delays because at times we can't get a purchase order through to pay for the advertisements, to hold our meetings. Moving forward, I've confirmed that we can go ahead and have these meetings as long as we digitally post it at the appropriate places, and we would do so while we wait for the purchase orders to come through, so the advertisement goes through. We've kind of changed the atmosphere in the commission, and as opposed to being at odds with the director, it's more of putting him in a position to ask, where can we help? What do we need to do to assist so that you can accomplish your goals, your missions down at the office? He's technically leading two different organizations. He's got the administrative side, and then he's also got the cemetery. working in a little two-story house is not conducive to a good work environment. We at the Commission have tried to address this, offered possible solutions, tried to find ways to put pressure on the movement of where GOVA is now to a larger space to accommodate the incoming VSOs, incoming CSRs. We've addressed and asked about the applications or the people that have applied for cemetery workers. Joe has adjusted fire, and he has asked DOA to make adjustments on the job descriptions to make it a little bit easier for more people to be able to qualify and apply for those positions. I will agree with Chris Torin. Our VSOs are not paid enough. The work that they do is akin to a PC3 or a PC4. And that can range anywhere between, I'm not quoting here what DOA is going to pay, but you're anywhere between the range of 50 up to your step levels, $70,000 or whatever it may be. If we want good quality work coming through the office, financially, those individuals must be, the financial benefits have to match the amount of work that is going to be required from these individuals. So, not going into details of what the audit has found, I know Joe has a task, and that's what's great about the audit, is he knows where the shortcomings are. Now that we are aware of it as well, we will seek and ask milestones, see what the progressions are, what the progress is that he has made, and hopefully with also the passing of Bill 192, the Commission can sit there and provide guidance and, in some cases, direction on the policy matters that affect GOVA. In the past, it has always just been the director basically following the law saying, I can consider what the Commission is putting forward, but it would be in the best interest of the director of GOVA to listen to the majority of veteran organizations on the island, basically coming to a meeting, putting it on the table, discussing it, and then developing a succinct directive, so to speak, for the director to take action. So rather than just being an advisory board to the director, what we are looking forward to, hopefully with the passage of Bill 182, is to be able to direct where the office can proceed with different policies, identify grant opportunities, direct them to apply possibly for these grant opportunities. And we will be there not only just to give direction, but also to assist in any way, shape, or form that these organizations can do so. With respect to the VSOs, like Mr. Torin had stated, there is a huge book that discusses federal regulations. And to bend outside of those regulations and the minimum requirements to become a fully accredited VSO puts our veterans at risk. We understand that there are programs out there to educate the veterans on how to access their benefits, how to start their claims, and that's absolutely great. But let's give the veterans what they absolutely deserve, and that's high, good quality personnel that is going to be able to assist them from start to finish. I've been involved with the Guam Veterans Commission, at least as an attendee, as far back as 2012. And I remember in years past, Veterans Commission meetings would be called. I would leave work, make my way to these meetings, and there would be no quorum. And this would happen 50% of the time in a year. When there was quorum, it would usually be bogged down by someone spending 20 minutes just complaining about senators, complaining about the governor, complaining about everything else. We've adopted a set of bylaws in the Commission now to address a lot of these things. We understand that there is a portion of Guam law, the Guam Code, where grievances can be submitted. We're establishing a grievance committee so we can have open town hall meetings and have each Veteran Commission member be present so that we can hear these issues. And collectively, these committee members can compile it, put it on the agenda, and then address it. So there's a plan that's already in place. In the past, it was usually just meeting once a month, airing out voices and concerns, and then there was no traction, there was no set milestones. It's starting to look a lot better. It's starting to become a lot more organized. Commissioners in the past have done their best, but from time to time there'll be something that just pops up every quarter that just kind of derails everything, and if it's one thing or another, it somewhat impedes the progress, and we're trying to make sure that we put things in place to make sure this doesn't happen. Commission meetings will take place, grievance town hall meetings will take place. We have legislative subcommittees. We have multiple subcommittees to address many things that the public needs to address their concerns. So, with that being said, it is a tough job to sit where Joe sits. It's not a job that you can take lightly, and I've known Joe personally to spend many, many hours above and beyond and outside of his typical duties to make sure that things happen. I appreciate the audit, and I think moving forward, the Commission, along with the Administrator, the Director for GOVA, will continue to make progress so we can address those individual pieces collectively and collaboratively, so that when we have this meeting again in 6 months or a year, those so-called demerits, those so-called findings are minimized. And we will hold Joe accountable, we'll hold the office accountable, so that those items that are brought up, we will ask him for a report every single month moving forward. And if there's any way that Commission members can assist, we will jump in and do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gambo, and I think that's why we're all here, is to help and assist GOVA to fulfill its mission and also to provide assistance to the Veterans Commission. So with that, we'll begin questions from my colleagues. I'll start it off with you, Mr. San Augustine. As you know, and people of Guam who are watching, we played that video of the property, the former Chancery office that was purchased by the government of Guam, and it was announced that GOVA would be moving there. Can you please give us the latest update in terms of, you mentioned that it was February 2026. That is the targeted deadline for move-in, correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Will GOVA be required to pay rent?
That is yet to be discussed with the front office. That is yet to be discussed.
When did you find out that you were going to be moving to that office?
The announcement during the Veterans Day event.
While you were sitting there, while we were all sitting there, that's when you found out?
That the confirmation coming from the Lieutenant Governor that that's where we will be moving. Otherwise, for several months, we've been eyeing the Chancery and other possible locations. And apparently, Veterans Day was when it was made confirmed through the announcement of the Lieutenant Governor.
Several months? So can you kind of give me, when are we talking? Because we had that oversight earlier this year, and you were still talking about public health in Manila.
So I think it's probably about 6 months ago when we actually took a tour of the Chancery, just to see the feasibility and the possibility of it being able to fit all our staffing. But still, the Hessler was still on the table as far as consideration for the move. The Chancery became a topic as well because, of course, we're having difficulty moving the public health out of Hessler as we speak. But after two or three walkthroughs of the Hessler, the Chancery, we were able to identify that the location would be able to fit the mission and the amount of people that we're going to be bringing on board to service our veterans.
Okay, so you've been discussing this for 6 months, you said? 6 months?
Well, it was about 6 months when we first took a walk of the Chancery.
Right. I mean, that would have been good to know because we could have had discussions on possibly appropriating funding if in fact there was a need, right, for rent. But that's done with. What about renovations? Are there going to be any necessary renovations?
Well, so of course...
It looks move-in ready.
Yes, and so your walkthrough yesterday, based on your video, was a lot of maintenance outside the building taking place, and they were doing some renovation. The walkthrough, as we identified the office, the office space are already there to be occupied by the employees. In comparison to Hessler, it's going to take us probably more than a year. We were going to move into Hessler to do renovation in order to build individual office spaces for those veteran service reps. What we see up at the Chancery is there are office space already in place suitable to be able to move the services of the veteran service reps, the director, and also the administrative officers. So there's ample built office spaces in the Chancery as we speak, as opposed to the Hessler. Even though Hessler is a lot larger, again, we have to be able to build office spaces within that large, Hessler, and enclose, if I may say that, of course, for privacy. But in assessing the Hessler, there's just more renovation that has to take place in comparison to the Chancery. And again, don't keep this in mind. We do have sewage problem down at Hessler, right? And so, is that something suitable that we want to continue to expose doing our daily work?
Wait, Hessler? Are you talking about Hessler, or are you talking about Aspen?
At Hessler.
Hessler.
The Hessler, yes, ma'am.
Okay, we don't need to talk about Hessler. Let's just focus on the Chancery.
Okay, but I was kind of comparing the two places as far as renovation is concerned.
Right. So I'm sorry, because you were kind of going back and forth. Do renovations need to take place at the Chancery for you guys to move in?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and it is ADA compliant. It is the adequate amount of space that you need?
Yes, based on what the administration and I are communicating, is that we will work to address any of the ADA compliant that needs to be addressed, to include the parking space. As you know, driving up to the location is kind of steep, right? But I could tell you, looking at the parking space that are immediately in front of that single building, those will be the parking space dedicated to all our veterans or our visitors. We will identify parking space more likely down at the bottom tier, in which we're going to have the employees park unless they are disabled. But up front, in the center of the building, there's an ample amount of parking space to be able to accommodate our clients, those that are ADA compliant. I understand it's steep. It's not the vehicle that's disabled unless they're driving an old vehicle. Our consideration of disabled is the veteran in the vehicle, right? So even though, and I was concerned of that as well when we first took a look at it, the parking space and then as they exit. And so the best way for me seeing it is the entire front of that single building where the office spaces are at will be dedicated parking spaces for the veterans or the clients.
Okay. But on the record, do you feel that is an adequate amount of parking space?
Based on our daily flow of visitors, right? I see it as sufficient. We want to again keep in mind, right, the area that are steep. What can we do to address the parking space that, can we expand it, right? But for now, I think, as I mentioned, the whole parking space in front of the single building where the office spaces are at are sufficient enough for our clients to be able to park. And as I mentioned, as we look at the area, unless the service rep or the employee is disabled, then we will have a parking space for that individual up at that location as well.
Do you know how many parking stalls there are?
No, I don't, ma'am. Okay. Not immediately.
What about you? Do you guys currently pay utilities?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And what's the average for the utilities?
If I could, if I may bring up my team so I could have them with me.
I'm just wondering. That's okay. I'm just wondering if it's going to have to double, triple when you move into this new building. I mean, are you anticipating that? Because
Yes, we anticipate to pay utilities, but for now I cannot mention. I'm not privileged to discuss what the rental or if there's going to be a rental fee.
all right, but
That
do you
was
have
not-
like an estimated figure on how much? Because it sounds like you're going to have to pay rent.
It would be
In a
immature for me
government-owned building.
to share that because it wasn't shared with me. It'd be immature for me to say that at
Senator,
this point.
may I interject? We actually put that in the audit, the amount. So between
For
FY20...
the Chancery?
No, for the utilities, the question you're asking. Between FY 2018 and FY 2025, the average appropriation for their operations was $826,000. Their budget proposals show an average of $718,000 that they budgeted for personnel services, and an average of $158,000 budgeted for operations, utilities, and capital outlay. So about $158. That's to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you. So more than likely, you will have to pay rent. Your utilities will double. You're somewhat confident that you're not going to need additional parking space, or that is adequate enough, right?
I feel it's adequate for our daily clients, yes.
You mentioned that you had a modernization plan. Can we receive a copy of this modernization plan? Because this is the first time I've heard of this modernization plan.
Okay.
I would appreciate that by the end of today, would be greatly appreciated. On the positions that you gave us an update on, I did have a concern that was brought to my attention regarding your cemetery workers. You mentioned that you hired a total of 2,
That's
and these
correct.
are classified,
Yes.
and you're anticipating the hiring of another 4?
That's correct.
Correct? And so what I was told that the 2 that you hired have no experience, and the requirement is to have 2 years of experience, unless GOVA changed the job requirements. There was also a limited term individual that was there at GOVA for well over 2 years, but this person's contract ended, but then was picked up again as a limited term employee. That person, when they applied, was rated 0 from the Department of Administration. But yet again, 2 people were hired and classified with no experience. If you could please clarify and let me know if this is true, and if you could make this make sense.
Yeah, so, somewhat it doesn't make sense for me because the Department of Administration is the one that vets these people. And still on the language, the 2 years experience is on the language. Also the requirement for the software license, which has been the obstacle to be able to bring on board or to hire a cemetery worker. It was the software license, possession of the software license that prevented us from being able to have more cemetery workers. Now, the 2-year cemetery experience is still a requirement. The 2-year cemetery experience is still a requirement. So the listing of the 2 individuals that we have just currently hired coming from DOA, it should have been clear from their vetting that those individuals do have the 2-year experience. Our job is just for them to receive the names of those that they have vetted, for us to go ahead and do an interview per their qualification, and then bring them on board. But
So you did conduct an interview with those 2?
Yes.
You did. And
So-
did they have the cemetery experience, the 2 years as required by law?
So I could have Mr. Meno because he was the EO during the interviews of those individuals.
Okay, Mr. Meno?
Mr. Mon-
Oh, yes. Sergeant at Arms, could you please swear in Mr. Meno?
Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Madam Chair, you may proceed.
Matanane, Senators, Masgehilo, Senator Matanane. My name is Joe Meno. I am the Administrative Officer at the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. In respect to the job description, it's 2 years experience or equivalent to the job description. So like Director San Agustin stated, the announcement was made through Department of Administration. Every applicant submitted an application, was vetted through the Department of Administration. Unfortunately, only 2 were qualified and met the eligible status to move forward to the interview process. We received the listing from the Department of Administration. We conducted the interviews. The panel selected both applicants, and the job was offered to the 2 individuals.
Did that third person that I mentioned, that was a limited term employee, did they not have the experience? Did they not meet the requirements?
So to my understanding, at one time, he did have the chauffeur's license, which is one of the requirements under the job specs of the cemetery worker. I'm not sure when he lost the license, for whatever the reason is. So therefore, he did not qualify for that position.
And did not, how long was he a limited term employee?
So limited LTAs are up to 1 year. And so at the time, that employee with the LTA status was under the labor position. And so when I consulted with the Department of Administration, there was no existing listing for the labor. And so we were therefore able to renew his contract under the limited term for the fiscal year.
And so the 2 that were classified that you hired met the requirements?
Yes, ma'am.
With a chauffeur's license or the 2 years experience?
In all areas of eligibility.
Okay, so the person that provided this information was inaccurate in that the 2 employees did not have cemetery experience, the 2 years. That's what you're saying?
I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that what is received from the Department of Administration is based on their qualifications and that they are eligible to move forward to the interview process.
And they were hired?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So as of to date, we have 4 cemetery workers. Mm-hmm. 1, of course, is the limited term appointee, and then the 3 are classified cemetery workers.
And you have 4 more that you plan on hiring?
Yes, ma'am.
And this LTA was brought back on as an LTA, and all this person needs is 1 more year of experience at the Veteran Cemetery and or a chauffeur's license?
And chauffeur's license.
And a chauffeur's license.
So currently, the job description for the current cemetery worker states that they would need 2 years experience and or equivalent and must possess a chauffeur's license. I have submitted the amendment, which was approved by the Director of Department of Administration and the Governor. And right now, it's on the maturity process, and it would need to meet 180 days. And so we anticipate that the amended job specs to the cemetery worker will be made available February or March of 2026, to which they will re-announce.
There's an amended job description?
Yes. So on the amended job description states that they must possess a chauffeur's license or may possess a chauffeur's license, which now opens the eligibility for more applicants to qualify.
Yes, our office actually was aware of this. I actually put that in the report. That's part of the process where it's in the possession of the Guam legislature right now. You might want to check with the files where everything was submitted, the petition to amend the job description for this particular position. And then if no action is taken, then it automatically gets ratified.
When was that submitted?
That one you
September.
have to, yeah.
Okay.
In September. It was approved
Actually,
in
it was approved.
September.
I will be on the lookout for that. Thank you.
So again, Madam Chair, in regards to the amended job specs, we anticipate February or March of 2026 for it to fulfill its maturity cycle, I guess, and then they'll re-announce it, and another pool of applicants can therefore apply and possibly qualify.
You know, these laws that were passed and enacted in the 37th Guam legislature, I'm just kind of curious, why is it taking so long? Whether it's the VSRs or the cemetery workers' transport vehicle, why is it taking this long?
In regards to the transport vehicle, in my communication with GSA, there were active IDIQs for a van. Unfortunately, those vans would not be able to be modified to accommodate ADA compliance. So we submitted a IFB, a bid out, and so it's still active with GSA. And we're waiting for a vendor to respond. So that van would be a van with modifications for persons with disability. They didn't have any to include, because I went up to GRTA and I asked them if they had any IDIQ, and they did, but it was for the bus size. And it wasn't we needed something smaller that GOVA would be able to maintain, and not the huge bus like CBOC, our federal counterpart CBOC has. So we're looking more for a smaller van, at least 7 capacity, nothing larger than that we are able to manage.
Okay. And it's taken a year to kind of figure this all out?
Well, the IDIQ from fiscal 24-25 was, they did have one, but we could not make modifications to the van. That was stipulated on the contract. So now there is a bid that is out there on GCA's website, and we're just waiting for a vendor to respond to that.
You said a contract. Was there a contract already signed for this?
No. I mean, the contract was signed for the van without modifications. And what we need is a van that can be modified to accommodate persons with disability, like a ramp or a lift. And we were not able to do that on the previous IDIQ.
So when are you expecting to get this new modified van? Transport
I have no
vehicle?
date to provide. That would be if a vendor responds to that bid on GSA side.
Okay. Do you think that this new van, this new transport vehicle, will be able to make it up that steep, narrow hill at the Chancery, where the new office is going to be located? Or do we need to do another modification?
I'm not even sure how this van would look, so I don't have an answer.
I could tell you what we're pursuing is somewhat a minivan and not a full-size bus. So, you know, the vehicle has a design horsepower. You know, if there's a road up the hill, the vehicle should be able to go up the hill. But in saying this, I don't want to make this a big thing. You know, the hill that we are talking about at the Chancery, again, we will work with the administration to see how we could better the drive and the parking, additional parking space that we foresee or anticipate we will be needing. Just based on the office space that's available, it's suitable for us to meet our mission. The parking space, again, like I mentioned, that's in front of the office building is sufficient enough for our clients. But as we move forward, our job is to make sure we meet those mandates to ensure ADA compliant and better the parking spaces as we move forward. Right now, I mean, I would love to have something like Donkey Kong, but apparently it's not available. And we've been struggling for this for quite some time with the administration trying to help us to find a place so that we could better service our veteran community. And guys, it's been a struggle, senators. It's been a struggle. And, you know, the administration is doing their due diligence to help my office.
That's great, but I wish the administration would be here to answer some of these questions because they were invited, and we did place a phone call yesterday. We wouldn't be going back and forth right now if they weren't here. So. Because I think our veterans deserve some answers, especially if they are communicating with you and for the past several months about this office space in Agana. I want to move on to the data management system and security. You mentioned that, and I've heard this for years, even before I was elected, about working with the state of Utah. And there's been previous directors from GOVA that have been saying that they've been working with the state of Utah. Are we really working with the state of Utah?
Yeah, so Senator, just to let you know, I received an email response from the director of the state of Utah this morning that they have directed their IT guy to engage with my office, and I will engage our Office of Technology on our end to make this happen. I did swear in, right, earlier. Senators, this VIS that has long been a hope for us to be able to have is going to happen. I swore this morning to this body. I will tell you that the state of Utah is committed to helping us. We will get it done. I personally know the people. Their job, too, is to help us make this a reality so that we will have the Veterans Information System in place to better modernize, part of our modernization efforts to better serve our community and be able to have our office serve, in a better way instead of just manually. We are implementing, technology, and this is one of the technologies that, yes, we've been struggling for a while. I did swear in, it's going to happen.
You responded that you would have this VIS and execute this MOU and MOA by October 2026. Is that still accurate based on your responses to the OPA? October 2026?
That's probably very real. Yes, that's very real.
Okay. And what additional costs?
Right now, there's no cost associated that I could speak of. The Utah office purchased several softwares, and right now, my understanding from them is part of their commitment. A part of the Directors Association, their part on this is to help the other state, such as myself, who needs the software. But right now, there's no cost that I've been made aware. The initial cost, if we were going to purchase the system or the software, is over $1 million. Over $500,000.
What about computers, things like that?
I will have Mr. Meno talk about the computers, which is part of our modernization plan.
So, Madam Chair, we did receive Public Law 37, 101, and 102 that would support, and thank you to the senators from the 37th Guam Legislature for their assistance. Just to report that we are, by this afternoon or tomorrow, I would be able to submit online to purchase the requisitions for our computers. We got support from the front office. They opened up the system that would allow me to submit in requisitions. So I'll be doing that this afternoon for the computers.
You mentioned this was through Public Law 37
101
right.
and 102. Yeah.
Right. And again, why is it taking so long? Why couldn't you have procured these
So again,
sooner?
there were no IDIQs for computers, laptops, and such in the previous fiscal year. There were active IDIQs on the GSA website, but there was no, it was all in procurement process. And so now there is an awarded contract for computers. Just for the body, just so you know, that we also reached out to the Port Authority, and they did have a IDIQ for computers. Unfortunately, it was, it met the deadline to submit for, so it was a good thing that GSA had an awarded contract that was just done the past week or two. They opened up the system, so I'll be able to submit requisitions for those computers.
Is the holdup GOVA or is the holdup GSA?
It's the procurement process.
Okay. I'm going to open up this up to my colleagues to ask some questions. We'll begin with the Vice Chair of the Committee on Veterans Affairs, Senator Borja.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator San Augustine, OPA, Senator San Augustine, Director San Augustine, GVAO, and all the veterans that are here today for this. You know, I think, not I think, but what I want to at least start with is I recognize the huge responsibility that GVAO, I think, carries. Although I still will continue to say that a lot of the work and a lot of the frustration amongst veterans, really, we need to continue to push the VA, especially in regards to addressing a lot of the concerns. Obviously, in the audit, we recognize that there's a lot of work to be done with the office and the services that they provide to veterans locally. To answer one of the questions earlier, I know Mr. Santiago, in regards to getting the information from Department of War or Department of VA. So I serve on the advisory committee, which is the Congress enacted one for the outlying islands, and there's like 15 of us, which has 2 from Guam. And I mean, this is probably like the seat at the table that we talk about when we talk about advocating for access to benefits and access to care for veterans. And I will say that even though we were at the table with some of the top level officials within the VA, there's still a lot of bureaucracy in regards to, because that was one of the questions we asked, because the veteran count has always been one of the big discussions when we talk about what can the VA do to improve access and care for Guam, and we need to get veterans to register so that it indicates that there's a need. But because when veterans leave the service, they're not leaving the Department of Veterans Affairs, right? So Department of Army, Department of the Marine Corps, Department of the Coast Guard, Department of the Air Force are separate entities, which all has their own rules and process in regards to PII. And so it's a struggle, and the VA recognizes that that could help. But again, there has been a lot of work locally, at least with the VA out of Hawaii in conjunction with the CBOC in regards to outreach. Obviously, they leverage the funding from the, I'm drawing a blank here, but the recent passage of the law that extended VA care or VA benefits to those from the PACT Act, there you go. So they were leveraging that funding and that project to do outreach, and they've done a decent job in getting more veterans to come out to register, which has increased our numbers. But again, even within the advisory committee, which for those who don't know, our role, the advisory committee submitted a report to the Department of the VA with the Biden when the Biden administration was making their exit. Obviously, there was a pause after they left when the Trump administration took over, with a lot of the government pause, with the pause in the government when Trump took over. And so that report is sitting somewhere. But I think, or to circle to where I'm going here is, one of the things in regards to, or the most important thing to healthcare and access to benefits, I think that the GVAO probably can facilitate, just based on my experience, and a lot of is really those who have technology barriers, because I think that's where a lot of these nonprofits come into play. I think I talked too long, but one of my questions, because it's very important, is the PII. What is the immediate action that the GVO is taking to secure this information? Because we've seen operations across the United States get shut down when a breach is done and personal information is being, especially hacked by outside entities.
Afterday, Senator. So to answer your question and to address what was brought up in the audit, we are currently working with the Office of Technology. In fact, the director, we met with him last Friday, and OTEC is currently in the motion of creating a in-house network that would support our mission to secure records and the way we transmit records from our veterans coming in from the outside and inputting it into the government system. So that is being worked on. We hope to have that up and running in our office by the end of this month. And so that would support us here at the state office until we can officially set up the Veteran Information System by way of Utah. So.
But I guess my question is how can we feel confident that our information is secure? That's 24,000 veterans, right? I'll tell you, even 10,000 names with social security numbers and date of birth is valuable to adversaries. So what are we doing now?
So currently, because the Record Management Office does not have its own isolated area in our office, a mitigating effort that we have shared with OPA is that on the second floor, which houses all the records, there's only 3 individuals that possess the key to that office: myself, the RMO staff, and the director. When our staff from the first floor, which are the VSRs and the CSRs, when they need access to those files, they have to make a request through those transmittal form that we have set up internally in our office. The only thing I can inform the body, as we have informed OPA, is that we secure the office by way of locking the doors. There is no other method that we have to lock, because the filing cabinets don't even lock. So we take that measure to secure the office itself.
There's no digital file?
I'm sorry?
There's no digital file of this information?
So currently RMO is working with the Guam State Clearinghouse. They've begun the digitization process already. They've started with the closed files, which are much more smaller in number. After the closed files, they'll transition into what we call the XC files. And those files are when the veteran have passed, but their spouse are still alive. And then we move on to the bigger process, which are the active files. And those files are both veteran and spouse or dependent are still alive.
Again, so to be clear, because I'm not understanding, is there a digital file with personal information of veterans that exists anywhere?
Yes.
So how is those files being secured?
Again, as we lock our office, there's no one permitted to come upstairs to the records.
Yeah, but digital access doesn't require physical access. So how are we securing that?
The external hard drives are secured on the second floor.
Is it connected to a network?
No.
Okay.
They're government computers, and it's a standalone hardware that's not connected into anywhere.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any further questions. I'm out of time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Borja. Senator Gumatato.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, for holding this oversight hearing. This is an oversight hearing in the Office of Veterans Affairs. This is not an oversight hearing on the veterans groups. This is not an oversight hearing on the Office of Public Accountability, or this is not an oversight hearing on the veterans of Guam. I should have asked this in March, but what was the date, Mr. San Augustine, that you were appointed to serve as Director of the Office of Veterans Affairs? What was the date? Can you please turn on your mic and say that for the record?
Second, May 2023.
So if you're appointed in 2022... 23,
yes.
Why would you say today that the findings that were presented in the 2025 audit of the Office of the Public Accountability Office, why would you say on the record today that they were unexpected?
They were expected.
Sir, you've been serving for 2 years, so why would you come here on a second oversight hearing and say that this information and the results of the audit were unexpected?
They were expected. It's expected.
I can read the quote again. You said they were not unexpected.
Senator, I could tell you that in working with the audit, the findings was expected.
Well, sir, I would just argue today that the challenges that you mentioned today, they actually do define where GOVA is at today. Let me just jump in, because as the chair had said, she asked where the modernization plan that you recommend, that you mentioned today. I'm hoping that you provide this committee that modernization plan, or where the public can in fact see it, because I'm sure some of these veteran groups would love to see your modernization plan. Because when I think of the priorities that are set out by your office, clearly when a law is passed on May 31st of 2024 and May 28th of 2024, it's clear I can accept some part of the challenges might be somewhere else, but sir, with all due respect, I think this is a serious lack of priorities here, that you are unable to work with the Department of Administration, with the GSA to get stuff done. I don't understand. I guess let me go ahead and just jump into my rest of my questions. It was 8 months ago we were here at a oversight hearing, and after the oversight hearing, I sent your office a letter to request of you to confirm whether the $8.2 million federal funding opportunity remains available to support much-needed improvements and the expansion of the Guam Veterans Cemetery in PD. You responded back on March 24th that you've reassessed and resubmitted to its VA Veterans Cemetery Grant Program application, which led to you securing $13.6 million. I had to FOIA your office. And in the FOIA, not to you, excuse me, to the Public Works Department to talk about this $8.2 million VA cemetery, to get a copy of the procurement record for this. And I was able to get that back on March 31st. So let me ask, where exactly does the Office of Veterans Affairs stand with respect to information that you provided me back in March relative to the $13.6 million VA Veterans Cemetery Grant Program opportunity that you secured, and what role has DPW served so far in helping your organization move forward with this funding opportunity?
So, Senator, and I thank you for that question. Let me clarify that this grant that we're after is a pre-application grant. None of the grant, the 8.2 nor the $13 million was ever awarded to the VA office here in Guam.
So, Mr. San Augustine, I think all the veterans here would probably say that that would equal zero. If we haven't been able to apply, it's out there and you have to go get it. It's about priorities. Let me just interrupt because I think for me, I've heard a lot this morning and I'm trying to process this. I think there's a lot of people in this room that want to see you succeed. But you got to prioritize some of these things. And if you can't, I mean, that's why I asked you how long you've been in your seat. If you just found out about a veterans building on Monday with all of us, when was the last time you communicated with the Chief of Staff? When was the last time you communicated on these projects before they announced it?
We've been, Senator, we've been communicating again.
No, I asked you, when was the last time you communicated with the Office of the Governor, the Chief of Staff? Can you tell me?
Quite so often.
No, I'm asking when. Do you have a date? Last month, last week, 2 weeks?
I will probably say less than a month before the Chief of Staff took off to travel, that he has shared with me that the Hessler...
That is what I'm getting to, is that the idea that you find out like us is disappointing. They're not here right now to explain a building, and either is the Bureau of Information Technology. They're not here to explain technology. I think that all of us, let me just finish because I'm running out of time. But I think the community deserves to hear from them. If you just found out or you haven't talked to them in a while, I'm going to suggest a WhatsApp or something to get to them quicker and sooner and more often. I've been up there. I understand that, but they have to prioritize you because it's pretty clear they're not prioritizing veterans. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Gumatao. Vice Speaker Ada.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the panel for being here this morning. You know, a couple of questions that I had, and I think it's really concerning, is that over the past 3 fiscal years, from 2024, you had a budget of $888,000 to 2025, 1.2 million, and 2026, 1.5 million, and we're still in this area where we don't have enough cemetery workers at the cemetery. And I know Mr. Meno had mentioned that one of the issues was with the driver's license. What do we need a chauffeur's license for anyway to work at the cemetery? I'm just a little bit curious.
So currently we have a backhoe, and Senator, in discussion with DOA, and it was just my assumption that at one time GVC had other vehicles that required a chauffeur's license, and so even under the previous director, there was already work trying to be done to amend the job description for the cemetery worker, and so finally it was approved to date, and we're just waiting for the chance to re-announce, the opportunity to re-announce the...
Yeah, but isn't a cemetery worker different from a heavy equipment operator to operate the backhoe?
Right.
Yeah, so we wouldn't need a license to be a cemetery worker.
Right.
Right? So perhaps that amendment should actually be not even... They wouldn't need a license to be a worker. I mean, the cemetery grounds is only so big, right? And so they don't need a vehicle to, they got the golf carts and the mules to drive around the cemetery. So I'm pretty sure that those that are working in the cemetery would be able to do that. The other question I had was Public Law 37-102. The sum of $1 million is appropriated from FY General Funds, 2024 General Funds, collected excess revenue of $1 million, right, to hire 6 veteran representatives and 6 cemetery workers. Of that $1 million from that public law, how much is remaining?
Senator, I'll provide that information to you. I would have to do another budget analysis to to report out to the body that any excess funds from that 1 million would, the director has obligated to procure lowering device, lifting device. Our computers are being supported to purchase out of that 1 million, as well as other needed equipment down at the cemetery.
Yeah, but the public law stated that only after all 6
Yes.
representatives and all 6 cemetery workers
Yes.
can any revenues
Yes, sir.
from that
Yes,
be used for other things. So
Yes, sir.
we don't have the 6 workers, right?
Right.
And we don't have the 6 representatives.
So
So
in-
how are we utilizing the remaining of that funds for the?
We have not utilized it as of right now, other than picking up our 4 VSRs. We are waiting for another listing from the Department of Administration for the VSR position. And for the cemetery worker, we have picked up 2, which is coming out of that Public Law 102. And then the additional 4 cemetery workers when we are able to hire them, as well as the 2 healthcare liaisons and the 1 bus driver.
Okay, so how many did GVC receive any COVID funding or any ARPA funding or any other funding for equipment that they could have purchased equipment with instead of this $1 million?
For equipment, it was my understanding prior to my coming to Gova, there was nothing for equipment.
So currently, how many burials are we having daily at the Guam Veterans Cemetery? How many do we allow daily?
For burials, we have up to 3 in a day. And with that 3, it's 1 ground burial, which requires a 4-man team, 1 crypt burial, which requires a 3-man team, and in the mornings, interment of cremated remains, which requires only 1 person.
Okay, and is the chapel currently in use down at the cemetery?
Senator, to share with you, we're looking at opening the chapel for utilization by the end of this month. There are still some items that we need to ensure is in place before we actually open it. And one of those big items is ensuring that we have a sink where if they do wash the, what's that?
It's called a sequarium.
A sequarium?
Although it's a non-denominational chapel, however, the Archdiocese has advised that the chapel should be able to cater also to the Catholic community, and there is a special type of sink that's called a sequarium, where the cruets and vessels are to be washed, but that drainage should not go into the sewage line or anything. It needs to be directed straight to the ground.
Okay, so we're holding up the usage of the chapel for one particular denomination. We cannot allow the chapel to be utilized for viewings or anything?
We could open it for other denominations. Where I'm going with this is once we open it up, and the next day the Catholic denomination wants to use it, but I don't have the equipment, I mean, be shame on me. I want to make sure everything's in place.
But I think that's only for the Mass of Christian burial, and I think that the Archdiocese had placed out a notice that they will not be celebrating Mass of Christian burials at the Veteran Cemetery unless they rescinded that.
So what's going to be happening is they'll be having a mass for the burial. The casket will be there, but it's going to be closed. It will not. There will not be viewing. But
Yes, Senator, I'm familiar with that. With the former Archbishop, he did stop all masses outside of the church. It is my understanding that they've made connection with the diocese, with Father Paul Goffigan, who is the Vice Chancellor, and masses will be permitted or allowed at the Guam Veteran Cemetery.
Okay, so did you guys get that in writing that they will be doing that?
We'll get it from Father Paul.
Okay, and the other question I had as well was that, you know, you had mentioned the $13.6 million, and I believe that this has been an issue that was going on since Mr. Uggan was the director down at the Veterans Cemetery, and I distinctively heard the governor on the radio saying that the money was already in the bank. So was that a miscommunication? What was it?
You know, Senator, we keep going back to that topic. Again, there was a lot of excitement, and it was I guess misinformation, right? Because of all the excitement. You cannot have anything in the bank if the pre-application never went through. So back then, initially there was an offer of $8.2 million to expand the cemetery, and through all the excitement and some of the miscommunication that took place, it was published and it sounded like we did receive it. It's in the bank. We've never received it. Moving forward, the pre-application for the $13 million that we're talking about is based on that 8.2 that was initially offered to my predecessor. I upped that 13.2 when I met up with the Veteran Cemetery grantor, because I was trying to emphasize to them that the cost for everything is going up. And it's best that, you know, I get a good amount of funding so I don't have to go back and ask them. I could always return what we don't use, but with Guam, the way it is, and with the competition of material and purchase and the cost competing with the military buildup, we anticipate that the expansion of the cemetery with the material and the manpower and equipment, that it's going to go up as well. So that's when that came about, was when I met up with the cemetery grantors. I asked, give us the max that you could, because right now, you know, this is not the U.S. where you could just go to Home Depot and purchase something cheap. Guam is quite expensive, material is quite expensive, labor is quite expensive. And I'm always happy to give money back, whatever's left of what is required of us to build. Once we build the 1,200 crypts and there's 5 million left, then we'll be more happy to send that remaining back to the cemetery grantors. But, you know, the 8.2 into the 13 point, these are all pre-application. And so we submitted for our pre-application. Because of the government shutdown, I have not heard back from the grantors. I was expecting to hear from them toward the end of October into the first part of November. I'm hoping that whenever the government shutdown is lifted, that I will hear from them of the consideration of what the offering is going to be, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, I see. So currently you're in equipment inventory. What do you guys have as for lowering devices, church trucks, crypt lifts, backhoe, pickup trucks, everything? What do you guys currently have?
So right now we have two pickup trucks, Frontiers, one backhoe, one lifting device, two lowering device.
And those are all new equipment?
One is a year-old equipment, which is the lowering device. The other one, it's probably about 5 years. But in saying that, that's part of our movement to purchase more of the lifting device and the lowering device. I have made it. I have informed Mr. Menu that we're looking at possibly having to purchase two lifting devices, which is like $25,000 to $35,000 each, and the lowering device that's around $9,000 each. So we're looking at purchasing, you know, two of those.
I see. And the backhoe, is that owned by the Guam Veterans Cemetery?
Yes.
And
the backhoe is owned by the Guam Veterans Cemetery.
Is the operator a heavy equipment operator?
The operator is an operator from Parks and Recs.
So he is a certified heavy equipment operator?
My understanding, he's a heavy equipment operator. But let's go back with the cemetery worker, and why should the cemetery worker have this backhoe operator? You know, having the cemetery worker have the qualification to be able to operate a backhoe just means better utilization of that individual. In comparison to hiring a heavy equipment operator, and his specific job is just to dig the hole and sit down and wait until it's ready to be covered, right? The specific job description, that's something that I cannot really utilize down there, because the usage of the backhoe, while it's used every day, it doesn't run a total of 8 hours. It runs like an hour to dig and an hour to cover, right? So what's the best way to maximize, and how was this planned that there must be a self-first license years ago? Well, you know, if we think about it, I will say that government vehicles that are operated by government employees will be the subject of why a self-first license is required. It doesn't just have to be heavy equipment. It doesn't have to be a limousine. But because it's a government vehicle, I foresee that that should be a reason to protect government assets, is to ensure that these people do have self-first license. As the OPA had alluded to us, their finding is unless the backhoe has to go off the road, right to another location, is when the self-first license is required. But guys, safety is safety.
And I totally agree with the OPA that unless it's taken off the grounds, then you would need a self-first license, a licensed operator to operate that vehicle. Just like any ordinary vehicle, you need an operator's license. So, but to operate within the cemetery grounds, the backhoe has nowhere else to go than that cemetery, because it doesn't belong anywhere else, just like the vehicles there. So I think changing the qualifications for a cemetery worker not to have a self-first license is the right direction to go. And as a matter of fact, perhaps you'll be able to get some more applicants if a driver's license not even a requirement to work within the cemetery grounds. So of the 19 headstones that were mentioned weren't installed yet, how many are still currently wait to be installed?
Well, the order that I've given the cemetery workers today is to send me how many of those head markers still remain to be mounted and installed on the ground. And I have directed that head markers be placed on the ground, or the crypts and columbariums, as many as they could today. And actually, the order is that all of them be placed as of today, because there's no burial today. I think of the 19, so I was down there yesterday because I administered a burial. I think what I saw left was at least 10 of the large ground head markers, but I think there's still probably about 10 more of the crypt or columbarium head markers. And I've ordered the folks at the cemetery to get as many of those installed.
Okay, thank
today.
you. You know, I got about 20 seconds left, so I just wanted to, put out there that perhaps maybe the governor should work with the Department of Education. You know, they have a school right there in Tamuning, LBJ, that's not being utilized. I think that would make a perfect spot for a veterans office and the different veteran organizations that can go there as well. I don't think the Chancery area is conducive, only because of the fact that that is a steep hill, and I don't think you would have enough parking up there to handle any veterans organization meetings or things like of that nature that can accommodate them. So perhaps maybe something, Director, that you can talk with the governor, Lieutenant Governor, talk with Superintendent, and see what they can do about with LBJ.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Adam. And by the way, have you had any discussions about any other locations aside from the Chancery?
Just between Hassler and the Chancery, that was it. I've expressed about a year ago that I was eyeing the old Sunny wholesale place over by across Donkey Kong, but apparently that place has been taken really quick, has been rented by private businesses. There's a food industry there and other businesses that have taken over. But I have brought that up to the administration, and apparently, new businesses took over my chance to be able to consider it. But those are the only two locations, nothing else, which is the Chancery and the Hessler building.
Okay, thank you. Selena, did you want to comment? Okay. Senator Terlight?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the audit and your presence here and explanations today. Thank you also, Director, for your work, and for all of you who have come here to testify and to participate and who've submitted written testimony as well. Can I just ask, when was the audit done? We got it in October, at the end of October, but when was it done?
The report was issued in October. We initiated the project as early as January because it was a part of our annual work plan for the year.
So did it include, like you talked to them about their hiring plans? Because you talk about their hiring and how they're short-staffed, but did you hear all their explanation about how they were announced positions, things like that?
Yes, as we continue to communicate throughout the duration of the audit, yes, they were very forthcoming with letting us know what the recruitment efforts were. We had actually, another point that we do want to make is that we are concerned about the sustainability of, because we're looking at current budgetary resources, and then the additional appropriation of the $1 million, we expressed to management that we're concerned that after the recruitment is completed, what then happens with the budget, if these numbers remain the same, are there plans to increase the appropriation or to request a higher appropriation to sustain the additional 12 employees potentially, and then perhaps the purchase of the VIS. So we did engage back and forth with how they plan to pursue that and how they wish to communicate those budgetary resources or needs to the administration and to the legislature. So yes, they did. They shared with us. Thank you.
Yeah, we were concerned as well during the budget process about not meeting what we had in the last term started, right? However, it is concerning that those bills, those laws were passed in June 2025, and the hiring still not completed, right? Or we've been going back and forth in almost every hearing. I've read the minutes of the meetings, and it's kind of like, you say it's being announced, and then just really hard to believe, I guess, that since June 2025, it's been a year, and we can't get the 4 cemetery personnel and the 4 VSOs on board. So I've heard your explanations today and that your new strategy, but again, I wish this had been decided much earlier, because even June 2025, if you knew you were going to have the money, if you had made announcements back then, it looks like the first announcement didn't go out until after June 2024, and the first announcement didn't go out until March 2025. If it did, you said you were going to do it by the end of the month when you came in here in March, and then now we have to redo it, right? But in the meantime, besides the change in the description, is it still being announced? Is it still open? Yes?
Yes, the current job specs for cemetery worker, I have placed it under a continuous as well as the amended,
all right,
just so that it will be able to support if we don't meet eligible applicants.
Okay. And then the registry, you made a finding on the registry that they had 2,196 since 2017. I think were you able to look before that?
Actually, that information was provided to us because we attempted to look for a registry with information. Of course, that information is privileged, right? It's identifying information. So we relied on the numbers provided to us by management. And I know we did recognize that they do report to the legislature on a quarterly basis how the numbers are or the status of the registry. But that's as far as we were able to locate between what's on messages and communications and what they had available to report to us.
Yes. So Director San Augustine, I remember when I was a new senator, you were the administrator of GOVA under the previous governor. And at that time, the registry was a big issue. The place had suffered a fire. We were concerned about records being destroyed. We don't think there were any digital records at the time, or you had to rebuild that. And that was what you were going to work on at that time. You were going to work on an online process back then. I think one had started, and then it seems like maybe it ended. And then we passed some couple laws to make sure that anyone getting a veteran's license plate would have to hook up with your office as well. That, I think, has boosted the registry beyond possibly less than 10 a year. Now we're up to 200 and some a year, and I'm going to say the numbers you have about, you said 231 for between FY 24 and 25. That's almost one per working day. That sounds good to me, knowing that some of the veterans have not for decades been not all of them have been wanting to register with the Guam office. So I know we pushed the license plate, that if they were going to get the license plates, that they would hook up with your office as well and the registry. We also passed a law requiring that the mayors also do outreach when they're verifying residencies, that they ask. Of course, it's not anything forced, but they just ask, make that that's like a contact point for them to just see if this person's a veteran in their village, so that they could also help you with your hooking up. So I mean, that still could be better, and I hope it will be. And we also hooked up with the new license plate law, the free one, where they're going to get it for free, that they would also have to go through your office, so that's going to help with the registry amount. But I want to thank you for your work on that so far. And also the burials, 340 burials in 1 year sounds like a lot to me. That's at almost one a day. That's more than one per working day for sure. So I know with the limited staff you have, that's a lot of work. But I understand everyone's concerns. And I'll be honest with you, after All Souls Day, I received several complaints, not just one. And it was the same thing. And although the minutes from the last commission meeting say that they have been receiving good comments regarding the cemetery, the ones I received were, they were questioning the maintenance, particularly water blasting and painting of crypt areas. And so I just want to ask, is there a schedule that you follow to make sure that all places of the cemetery are taken care of, not just the ones in the front and all of that? Because that's kind of what they were questioning.
Yeah, and I thank you for that, Senator. And I thank you for the people that are bringing that up to your attention. I'm aware of that. That's expected. Again, a lot of this is due to the shortage of my manpower. So I move the people around to where I need them. While water blasting is a big issue, the growing of the grass around the head markers become an issue. Each day when there's a burial, that simply takes up the whole day and the manpower that I have available. And so I am very hopeful that we continue to work together, provide me the funding so that we could hire people, as we aggressively are trying to get them on board, so that I could address those issues that are being brought up. I'm very aware of it. I walk that place every day, and I feel very bad, right? But I do have, like the American Red Cross, I have active duty people that come down there and ask to volunteer. And so we have the Department of Correction also that has engaged with us, and they do a lot of good work, and I'm trying to see if I could get them to help us at least twice a month, right? But somehow, unless and not until, through my desperation, we get our manpower on board, many of these deficiencies are going to remain, and I address them as they come. The cutting of the grass down there, if I cut the grass today, drive in tomorrow, it's like we've never cut it. So that tells me that we have to cut it, every other day at least. That's how fast it grows. And how do I know this? Because I'm part of the crew. When we go out there cutting, I grab the bush cutter too, because I want to see. So that it poses challenges simply because of where it's located, right? It doesn't stop me. It's not stopping my team. However, I got to be very considerate when ensuring that the workload that I provide them is conducive to what they're able to do, because I don't want to wear them out. You know, I got 3 of them from the Department of Labor, and we keep extending because I'm trying to get these people to have ample enough time and training and experience in the cemetery, so we hopefully can hire them as well, right? But that challenge is there, and until we get people, and I continue to reach out. You know, I got the ROTC and the military that continue to call me. What can they do? What can they do? So there's help there. It's just me synchronizing it to ensure that we have all the assets, the equipment, the tools that we need in order for them to come and just volunteer do the work. But it's been a challenge, and I'll tell you, I got 2 office space. One of them is down at the cemetery.
I know.
Because that place is so critical, you know, and it's important. And I do this, and you know, Ms. Sabrina Salas, Madam Chair, you know, thank you for forwarding the constituents that come to you to say, can you please give them a call? I think that's the way it should be happening, okay? So that I'm aware of what's going on, right? But we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work. But thank you for that.
And I appreciate all the volunteers who are helping you as well, and all the work that you're doing. But yeah, I just want to know if there's a schedule so that they can be assured that it is going to be done. Also, you know, right now, you report to the governor, right? You're under the governor's office, and so is the commission. So I just think that we should be able to get the rest of the government's assistance as well. I just have one more question, Madam Chair, is that if you get the grant for the cemetery expansion, how are you going to fund the RFP for design and architecture that you must do in order to really receive the grant?
So there's a $1.3 million that was appropriated from the front office for the advertisement of the architecture and engineering.
From where? What kind of funding?
Senator, the requisition is prepared for our office to submit for the advertisements, and that's coming out of our budget.
That's only to do the ads?
Right.
What about to get the actual architecture and
1.3 from the American Rescue Plan that has been appropriated to us.
1.3 million from ARP.
The 1.3 million. Okay. Yes, that's correct.
All right. And you already have a plan, but you're trying to redo it?
So.
Or you never had a plan?
As far as the architecture and engineering is concerned? So here's what...
Oh, no, only the RFP. You've only had an RFP. And you're redoing the RFP because you want to change the design?
No, the location, ma'am.
Oh.
It came back that we need to redo the RFP because the 5 location identified has now become a 1 location.
Okay.
As far as for the expansion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know my time is up, but thank you.
I'm sorry, when was that RFP issued? When was that RFP issued? You said it was not issued at all for the A&E?
It was not. It was ready to be issued, put out. Apparently, through communications with myself and the Veterans Cemetery Grants, they decided that the 5 locations that we identified, one of the location was not acceptable, and that location is where the leaning crypt, which is vacant, that runs, that's built next to a river that's leaning. That cemetery grantors came back and told me they will not allow me to do an expansion there because there's a river behind it, and they do not want to spend funding on a place that, again, they foresee if we brought those crypts down and built there, that again, it's going to lean. So the proposal was when we looked at the hill, which is approximately almost 3/4 of an acre, I discussed with them that will be the primary location to be able to build over 1,200 crypts as mandated by the grant. They said, yes, that will be the best place to build it. And the reason for this, I want you all to be mindful of this. The 5 locations that my predecessors had identified, if we were going to expand, that's going to be 5 locations that's going to be disturbing the cemetery every day until it's built. The 1 location which has an easier access and which makes the most common sense which is the hill that does nothing, right, except grow trees and become just unuseful for us. 3/4 acres. We take that down. That's where the expansion is going to take place, and that's where the cemetery grantor said, yes, that's the best option.
Right, and I think, so that hill, you're looking at shaving it down and building those,
That's
the
correct.
columns.
Yes.
Right, but the notice of funding opportunity that you received last year, wasn't that the 13.9 million
Yes.
for that particular project?
Yes, ma'am,
And,
correct.
and there was no RFP that was issued for the A&E because you ran out of time, and so you had to notify the National Cemetery Association that you wouldn't be able to meet their deadline.
Yes, so because of the sequence of events that had to take place and milestones, so what happens is once the consultant or the architectural and engineering consultant is identified, right, that consultant has to then link in with the cemetery grantor, architect individuals and discuss what the...
Can we just, I'm sorry, can we just dumb this down a little bit? So the notice of funding opportunity last year, which is for the same piece of property for the hill, you're saying now it's not the same piece of property?
It's not, that's correct.
It is the same piece of property?
No, it's not. That's why the...
I just asked you that, you know, just a couple minutes ago, that it was the same piece of property for the notice of funding opportunity for the 13.9, and that was what the RFP was for the hill to shave it down. I'm just saying that's what I asked you, and you said it was. So now it's, what is different?
So the funding opportunity was for those 5 sites that were initially identified. So that's why the RFP did not go out, because simply the timeline and the milestone that was expected from the grantors, based on my communications with DPW, there is no way that we're going to meet the timeline of 30 September 2025, right? And so we decided, based on the need of the change of scope, that we have to reapply for the grant, for the pre-application for this year, which is what we did. And so this time, working with DPW, you know, again, I need to make sure that we expedite the new scope of work and the RFP in which they should be working on. They need to turn that in to the AG for review. So we're hoping within 2 months that takes place, that the AG reviews, approve, and then they have to put it out as an announcement, RFP, and then we go from there.
My apologies, it wasn't last year, it was actually this year for the notice of funding opportunity, and that deadline was September of 2025. And when we had the oversight hearing in March, you didn't indicate that you were going to have to pull back that RFP. But again, it is the same property, though, because I'm talking about this year. I'm sorry, I didn't mean last year, but this year. Was there any changes in the property?
The scope of work, which is the hill, that has changed. It used to be 5 different sites.
Okay.
Now it's just 1 location, which is the hill.
And when are you going to issue this RFP? Or DPW?
It's incumbent of DPW.
When is the deadline that it needs to be submitted, or?
Well, we're hoping that they would have submitted.
Did you get a letter from the National Cemetery Association about this new notice of funding opportunity?
No, I haven't. That's the Veteran Cemetery grantors. Because of the federal shutdown, I have not heard anything from them. I'm expecting for them to, send me a notice of grant opportunity as soon as the shutdown is lifted. But I was expecting to hear from them in October or early November. However, because of the shutdown is the reason why they have not responded to me.
Okay. Senator Tydekwe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, or good afternoon almost, to my colleagues, and of course, good afternoon to everybody who's here today. Thank you for being here and taking an interest in it. It's good to seeing everybody, familiar faces out there, and as well as the representation from the nonprofit organizations for the veterans. Thank you for keeping an interest on this, because truly, one of the questions I've always asked is, why do veterans prefer to go to nonprofit organizations for assistance? What are they doing right? And I'm sure, Mr. Snagestein, you work very closely with these nonprofit organizations to hear their concerns and try to implement it in any planning phase that you have. So I hope you still keep to heart, these nonprofits that do great things for our veterans here. And one of the questions I had too is earlier you mentioned it, a modernization plan that you have in the making. And the due date, again, can you tell me when that due date you plan on to introducing this modernization plan?
And I thank you for wanting to have me deliver it today.
Oh, okay.
As we're talking, and as we look at all the requirements that we need to implement, which includes the additional manpower, both at the cemetery and at the office, the equipment that we need to bring on board, the Veterans Information System that we need to bring on board, the involvement of the Office of Technology for them to be able to build us a secure system so that we can download information and not have to have thumb drives freely exposed. Those are all my definition as I introduce my testimony today, that we are modernizing, right? The senator requested that, the Madam Speaker, that plan today, and I hope that...
because you indicated in your testimony that you had one.
So it all comprises of what we're discussing this morning, right, and sharing of what we're doing, moving, and it's a plan as we speak in a verbal way, right? It's a plan. There's a change. We're moving away from manual technology into the digital world, right? So I just lost track of what your question, Senator.
Basically, okay, so you do have a plan that you're putting together. I don't know if it's ready or not, but it's obvious that during this public hearing or this oversight, some of the concerns that we had and questions that were answered, and listening to the OPA, suggestions from the legislature here, reminding you about RFPs, things like that are moving forward. I'm pretty sure this modernization plan can incorporate not just the modernization of the Veterans Affairs, but also, what you need, what needs to be done. Obviously, the OPA has lit a fire, under our feet to review some of the concerns they have, and hopefully you will address them in this plan. I hope it's very soon, before forward. One of them is procurement. So one of my questions, Joe, I know that you deal with it, but there is a law that requires that anybody dealing with procurement is required to take the modules, procurement modules. How many in your office have taken the modules?
Only myself, Senator. I've taken the module 1. I'm on a waiting list for module 2, and so forth.
Okay, but you still work with that, right? I mean, putting
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
and you still use GSA to
Yes.
assist you?
Yes.
Okay, so anybody doing that, just to make sure, and it's always good to have other people beside yourself, Joe, to be able to put them through the procurement process, because that really, it's very helpful. I myself, I'm on module 2 right now. I mean, there's no reason why I do it, because it makes me understand the concerns and issues that these agencies have when it comes to procurement. Everybody knows that roadblocks are because of procurement. And if we all have a better understanding of procurement, even us as senators, which I challenge my colleagues to all take these classes to understand procurement and the issues that we have. But please make sure there's more than just yourself, Joe, taking those classes, because it's very helpful.
Director San Agustin has asked me to identify. We're just trying to get our food team on board before we can evenly distribute our extracurricular, other related duties to get possibly one or two more trained with the government of Guam modules.
That would be very, very helpful. Also, what help have you received from the Department of Labor? I brought this up to you in the past, I believe in the last public hearing or informational hearing we had with veterans. And we know there is a law that requires the Department of Labor to assist the veterans by providing another additional person, manpower. How far have you gotten on that? Has he been implemented into?
So, yes, and thank you for that. We do have few DOL workers. Currently, we have one DOL worker who is also a veteran, and he's working with records at the present time, records management.
Okay, and then, October 15th this year, I sent a letter to the governor asking the governor to utilize the Chancery for OTEC. I sent that letter out, and I was like, this would be a great opportunity, because OTEC's in a situation, they're in a flood zone, number one, they have asbestos there, and it's data and information. Every single agency is talking about, protecting cybersecurity issues. I mean, can you imagine if the government of Guam went down and their computers all were hacked or infiltrated with malware or any kind of virus? We would be in very bad position right now. But now hearing today that now it's going to the Veterans Office, I'm like, maybe there might be some room up there for OTEC after all. I saw the video, it was great, to do the walkthrough, and I did know that the possibility of putting DISIT there it's going to be very difficult because of people with disabilities. Now, many of our veterans all have, those handicap stickers. Most of them have that, and they have a disability. Put in that position up there, it's kind of difficult. So, it's going to take some work on that. But, my heart sank. I mean, even though I want to make sure the veterans have a home, a decent home. In Hessler, I mean, for you to tell me that there's some sewer issues down at Hessler makes me wonder, then why is public health still down there? If it's not okay for the veterans, but it's okay for public health, it doesn't make any sense. So I'll be writing another letter, regarding that. But yeah, it was very, it's good in both ways. A home for the veterans is what I've been fighting for a long time, but we also need to look at our technology. The other question I have is, how much is your waiting time? I'm sorry, it'll be my last question, but what is your waiting time for veterans to be able to be assisted by your office? Is there a list of people? And if there are, what is the timeline in order for them to be seen?
So with the retirement of Mr. Ron Kinata and the departure of Tanya, it leaves Marjorie and Linda, so they've been taking bulk of the remaining clients, to include Tanya and Ron. So as it was stated earlier, it is unfortunate that because of the calendar of scheduled appointments, like for example, Linda is already in January of 2026, calendaring scheduled appointments. But what we do is we assess the appointments. So for instances, BDD, which are benefits upon discharge for any active service member who's going to either retire or separate, they are given a grace period of at least up to 186 prior to their retirement or separation. So we can push their scheduled appointment out a little bit. And the more pressing issues, like veterans who have filed a claim and they're given like a 30-day grace period to respond, we try to assess those veterans. They would have more priority only to meet the 30-day deadline. So it just depends on what stage of their claims. And that's how we've been moving around to accommodate the more pressing issues, to meet deadlines, and then the ones that are given a little bit grace, more periods, we move them out to a later date.
So about 30 days is what we're looking about?
About a month.
So these nonprofit organizations really come in handy for some of those who need answers right away then?
Yes, so the veteran is free to choose to go to any, whether it be an outside or file on their own or at the state office. So yes, Senator, the nonprofits who offer educational assistance for the veterans, now if the veteran chooses to sit with someone and file the claim, that's their choice. But as accredited veteran service reps, we have a law that governs us, 38 CFR, that's what we work by.
Is any of the nonprofit organizations have that accreditation?
I'm sorry?
Does any of the nonprofit organizations as well have that accreditation?
Currently, to my understanding, it's VFW.
Has that accreditation?
Right.
Any other ones?
I'm not sure if they've applied for accreditation, but anyone who's applied under the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, such as our staff, the veterans, the state director approves for their accreditation, and that is submitted to the Office of Inspector General.
Okay.
Senator, may I just add to that? Because we actually did include that in the audit report, where that in addition to the 5 GOVA VSRs, there are only 2 other individuals on Guam who are not GovGuam employees, but they are VA accredited.
Okay.
And that's also on the website for the Veterans Affairs, the federal office.
What are they? What nonprofits are they?
VFW.
Only VFW?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. Senator Barnett?
Sidus Masi, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to the people of Guam watching on our TV and our YouTube stream. Sidus Masi, Nukulina Sidus Masi, Director San Augustine, Mr. Meno, Mr. Duenas, and Mrs. Anadara Salas for your presence today. And first want to just commend the Office of the Public Auditor for conducting the audit. And I just got to ask, because in the first sentence on the executive summary, it says that our audit of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs found that the lack of adequate budgetary resources continues to limit GOVA's ability to efficiently and timely meet its mandates and creates a high risk for breaches in security and loss of physical records. And so that's just right out the get-go. And I know I'm kind of new at this, but last time I checked, it was the legislature that was responsible for providing those resources. So I just want to ask Ms. Selena, if you could, in conducting the audit and speaking with GOVA, can you definitively say that these are resource issues and not necessarily corruption or negligence or incompetence?
In assessing just the mere fact that this staff is maintaining almost 24,000 active files. They've done a lot of their own internal audits manually. In doing the walkthrough at their office and actually seeing the physical records, we recognize they are meeting all their mandates. There are 9 ways for a Guam veteran to be able to be added to the registry, and that's through, a lot of that is with license plates, driver's license, GURA, preference points with DOA, and so we've determined that GOVA does meet its mandates. When we say, however, it's not timely, it's our assessment that if they have more employees, more VSOs, VSRs on staff to accommodate claimants for VA benefits, and then CSRs who would assist with state benefits, it appears, at least from our assessment, that it is budgetary resources that truly limit their operations. In the beginning, we started out the project with the administration or the administrative services. We understand that the cemetery in and of itself, we feel like maybe there's another opportunity for a separate audit. But it was really about administrative services because a lot of concerns were that, well, first of all, I think there's also this idea that GOVA handles VA claims, right, or VA benefits. They're really just kind of like the broker in the process where they process the intake of the documentation, and then after that, it's really, we're subject to sometimes even, I think, 130 days to 180 days for the VA to respond to claims, to initial claims. But budgetary resources is really what we've gleaned from our project. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Ms. Selena. Yeah, just sitting here listening to everything that's been said, I mean, there's been no shortage of effort from the previous legislatures before that, and including this one, whether it's providing funding through the various public laws that Mr. San Agustin had mentioned. And I noticed that when you read out the budget amounts over the last few fiscal years, we have seen an increase in the budgeting. But at the end of the day, even though there may be difficulty in recruiting the personnel and meeting the qualifications, you're still going to need money to pay those people. That's why I was very disappointed in the budget process when my amendment to appropriate $1 million to GOVA wasn't supported by a majority of my colleagues in the body. And so I wanted to also ask, because it's a tricky situation, we have this need to register veterans so that when Uncle Sam looks at Guam, he can say, oh, we have 30,000 veterans, let's go build a regional clinic there. I just ran into a veteran on Veterans Day at the Barrigada Veterans Organization gathering, and that was one of the things he asked. He said, Senator, how can we get more VA services to Guam? And that really is the key, is registering all of these veterans who, for whatever reason, haven't been able to or have not wanted to even bother with the registration. And so that's why I've been proud to support the license plates, the free license plates, any way we can migrate veterans into the system so that when Uncle Sam looks at Guam and even the region, they can say, hey, there's definitely a need. We're not arguing the need, right, and whether or not our veterans deserve these services, because they absolutely do. But, the federal government's black and white on me, and so if they see that we have a significant number of veterans, then we're better able to argue for an increase in these different services. And so signing up the veterans and getting them to avail of these benefits, I know that's part of GOVA's mandate, but you had mentioned in the audit, and there wasn't really, I didn't see a lot of information provided about this, having to return funds when you have outside entities that are, God bless their heart, they're probably trying to pick up the slack, right? I mean, there's a month delay, so maybe they're stepping in, but can you just elaborate a little more on some of the issues with that?
As I can only relay what has been reported to us, that as a result of errors in the way some forms were filled out or the documents that were submitted, that the VA has instructed a claimant or these claimants that they would have to pay money back that was previously awarded to them for, and I think, I'm not an expert on this, but I think this was for disability claims, and this has happened to more than one person, according to the reports we've received. And so, yeah, I think that it's more relative to the information that's filed with the VA, either on behalf of the veteran or the claimant herself or himself. And so then what happens after that, to our knowledge, is that, that claimant either decides, okay, I'm giving up because there's no other recourse from here, or someone who is accredited can pursue the appeals process. That's my understanding. But yes, we've been told that some claimants have been instructed that they might have received like a $30,000 award, and we're told to go and they had to pay all of that back. And you're only, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're given only so much time to return those funds, right? And so that is a huge huge concern for us that if someone who's not accredited, which the CFR, the regulations are very, very clear with who should be filing on your behalf as a claimant or who should be submitting the information, in addition to who should have your information. So that's another concern of ours, is that if non-accredited family member or a volunteer opts to assist a claimant with filing these forms, there's nothing to stop that person from saving login credentials, logging in without your knowledge as a claimant. So, you know, there is the safeguard of having an accredited VSO or VSR be the one to assist you with that. So yes, that's what we've received reports from people having to return funds.
Thank you, ma'am. Director San Augustine, are you able to elaborate any further on this issue?
Yeah, thank you for that, Senator. So the ones that I have able to experience are folks, veterans that I run into and actually shared with me their displeasure of the VA having to send them a letter stating that the information that they have reviewed that was submitted and then was subjected to compensations for benefits. As they do another review, which are the adjudicators, they come to find out that this individual is not subject or entitled to that benefit based on the findings and the review of the individual's application. They are, in fact, cases, though, where individuals, and even our office, where we submit for their benefits, the individuals will get another assessment from the medical doctors or whatnot, and apparently they will think that they are still entitled to those benefits or whatnot. What they're not aware of is if any of their benefits or ailments has improved, then some of those benefits or a percentage of those benefits will go away because of the improvement of their condition. So every now and then, that's somewhat almost common, right? But where we're leading on here is if the individual that has received assistance from any of the non-accredited organization or individual that helped them, and some of them, two individuals that I ran into down at the commissary where they told me that, Joe, they told me just put in, I'm a Vietnam veteran and a Purple Heart recipient. And when they submitted, they came back with not qualified, now you have to go to the back of the line. And these are two cousins that did the same thing. So what we're trying to do here on our part is comply with the 38 CFR, but we're hoping to convey to the nonprofits that continue to do the good things, but the good, honest things to the veterans. But one thing is clear, that the only individuals that should be helping veterans put in their application, review their application process, it has to be an accredited VSR. The individuals could do it on their own. They could get some help from family members. But if you're not accredited, you're doing injustice to that person. And part of what we want to do is prevent any type of mislead where this individual starts to get compensation. 6 months later, they receive a letter saying, in 30 days, we're going to get it all back.
Okay, now that's why it's important for us to support and give the adequate, I think above adequate, I don't think we should nickel and dime our veterans here, resources, money, because everything you're talking about costs money, and all the recommendations that the Office of the Public Accountability has made in this audit requires money. Everything from outreaches so that we can increase the number of veterans that are registering, that costs money. And so I just want to go back to what this 38th Guam legislature has chosen to prioritize, and that was the corporate tax break to the tune of $40 million this fiscal year, $40 million next fiscal year, when we routinely hear agency after agency come in here and talk about how they're struggling to meet their mandates, the increasing needs of our people with a status quo or a diminished budget. And so I just wanted to put that on the record. And you know, the reason why a lot of these veterans are going to these outside entities is because we failed to address the month-long wait for them to get the assistance from the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. So that, I think, should be the priority instead of giving big businesses a tax break that they don't necessarily need. And so it's a difficult position, Mr. San Augustine. I support the work you've done. I'm encouraged that, you know, we've seen some incremental progress since the last oversight hearing. But the thing about baby steps is you could take a few baby steps, you look down, and it kind of looks like you're sitting in the same spot. And so we have to really provide the resources. It's all right there in black and white. Clearly, it's although there are difficulty in recruiting challenges, I think those can be fixed, hopefully administratively. And we just need to put our money, the money, you know, where our mouth is. We cannot, you know, thank you for your service, and then shortchange you. And that's not my opinion. That's exactly what the Office of Public Accountability has said from 2017 to 2025. You've lacked the adequate budgetary resources. And also just on the, well, my time's up. And I just want to state for the record,
you, Senator
every
Barnett.
senator
Your
in here
time
has
is up.
had
Thank you so
issues
much.
with the time.
But I will say
And I
this
just say
about what he was pointing out
5 minutes is
regarding
not adequate
the
time
budget.
for us to
There
dive
have
into
been
these
issues
Thank
with
you,
the
Madam Chair.
budget and finances because GOVA has received funding, and we can point that out from the public laws that were referenced earlier, the $1 million to hire people, the money that was appropriated for the transport vehicles, this notice of funding opportunity for $14 million for the cemetery.
Are we debating, Madam Chair?
As I mentioned, these are funding opportunities. This is funding. These are appropriations to GOVA. So it's not necessarily all about the budget. It's about how you are managing the agency and what's not getting done, and yet you've had the time. So thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Duenas?
Madam Chair, and thank you to the panel for being here. I suspected that we were going to have a narrative and a budget conversation, so I prepared for it. Mr. Meno, do you dispute the CRER and the closing of the fiscal year, September, for the 2025 budget, that you lapped $618,000, 352.0? Do you dispute that? So I'll repeat what I said at GMH. You don't have a money problem. You don't have a funding problem. You have an execution problem. And I'm sorry, but I have to lay it out like that. And I sympathize for some things, but we just need that honesty. As my colleague just mentioned earlier, the $1 million, and we said that to you straight away here, as Senator, the Vice Speaker asked you, how would you procure additional equipment when your requirement is to hire first the VSOs, the VSRs? That's just a simple reality. I hate it when it turns into this, but I have to counter that crazy narrative that always comes up. And the number will come out, folks. Tens of millions of dollars have lapsed throughout the entire government of Guam, and OFB will be publishing that number soon. Unexpended funds. And we are going to get budget requests again for tens of millions of dollars again in addition requests. And I anticipate, or hopefully I won't have to anticipate, this vicious cycle. So I have to go and ask Mr. Duenas and Ms. Salas Onadera. This was a performance audit that was prepared, right, for the Veterans Affairs Office?
Yes.
So was there any discussion on the perennial issue on the inability, although they're resource challenged, on the perennial inability to expend their annual budget?
We did pose questions. First, we asked questions about how their budget presentation was packaged, right, year over year, because we noticed that operations was very, the funding requested was very small in comparison to personnel, understanding that personnel is usually 80%, right, of a budget request. But when we noticed that a VIS was discussed, but knowing that the cost for a VIS could be $500,000 minimum, but we didn't see those numbers in any of their budget requests. We asked what the communication was with the administrations that have overseen them. But as far as the perennial problem, with not meeting expenditures not meeting appropriation levels, we did not. That wasn't a part of the scope necessarily. Just really, what were the prioritizations or what were the priorities when requesting funding to meet their budget ceilings and so on.
Mr. Reno and Mr. Sudangustin, because I have to finish this process because we'll be going into performance-based budgeting in this next fiscal year. So if you've lapsed $618,353, would you consider that you had performed within fiscal year 2025 to your maximum level when you're looking at leaving approximately 40% of your budget on the table?
I'm sorry, Senator, can you repeat your question?
So if we were doing a snapshot of your budget and expenditures for fiscal year 2025, and we had applied the performance-based budgeting matrix to it, when you have unexpended close to 40% of your budget, would you consider that you could safely say or say with confidence that you performed your duties by leaving that amount of money on the table? Did you perform your mission?
Senator, I apologize. Can you refrain or repeat that question again? For some reason, it's throwing me off.
Director Sudangustin, I apologize. But as I mentioned, I'm disturbed. I'm disturbed because we're sitting here in front of veterans, in front of organizations, in front of folks who come to this oversight hearing to hear about the audit, to hear about your operation, to hear about the perennial issues and all the discussion. And what we hear time and time again, funding. The first sentence in the audit report is funding, supplies, adequate funding to the Veterans Affairs. But what we seem to see in terms of the perennial issues over the fiscal years to include now in 2025, that the funding is not the issue, it's the execution. $618,000, how many VSOs, VSRs can that hire?
Well, let me try to make sure I understand this. So, what you are looking at, Senator Dueñas, is that the office under my leadership has underperformed due to the numbers of a 40% lapses that we could have utilized to conduct our daily business with. However, the lapses is in question. Where did I underperform? I don't know. I see this as what is the priority? What needs to be done? And if I'm not able to acquire those services, not able to do the recruitment, and we ended up with lapses. I don't think that's a neglect. That's taking precautionary measures on my part, not to just utilize that funding, neglect. I feel that I was cautioned the resource based on what we need and could get so that we could continue to provide services and not just go out and say, let's just spend it all because they gave it to us. You know, for me, I think it's safe to say that saving vice neglect, use of that funding is safer because now you all allow us to say, well, what are you going to do with that funding? Well, I could tell you what I initially wanted to do. The federal grant cannot assist me with a mitigation, a huge mitigation issue down at the cemetery. This particular funding was what I was looking at to utilize to mitigate the problem down at the cemetery. But if you're saying that it's a neglect on my part, I think more so it's a caution on my part that while I need it, but that resource is not there. I need it. I would like to purchase computers, but the IDIQ is not there. I need it, but for this particular item, but it's not available. So what do? I'm not just going to say, let's just buy something that has an IDIQ. Sure, I hope that makes sense.
Joe, I'm going to have to go to you because of this $1,618,000. I'm sure that's not all equipment, right? That's staffing. That's in your staffing pattern, correct? Are those VSRs and other positions?
No, it's correct. That's the VSRs.
So you wouldn't be trying to go out and spend on something else you haven't hired, Joe.
Senator Dueñas, Guam maggasu, zo osgi I maggasu. Pues an asanganyo I maggasu na esti babay togwi, taza turidatu na bay kontra I maggasu. Pues hu osgi I maggasu. Si Zeus masi.
Pues paugo magas, hafan yan tun sangani, si Joe. Gusia zon hire estisha, hafan in tun hanno, papagi office gobyerno, zon faisen, I magahagad ani segundo magahagad con todo el Department of Instruction. Man mangi salapi pata hire estisha, no nisita, pata process that's the application, para I veterinario.
Veterano, 30 years. Angkin berarti hagunit yo comprendi lo utungwa na angkin timanao ngam tau ja necesita na bemifan hire peseju na direksyon o naigwi esti na salapi berarti seblan ita sasangan eji I manhujung or tisinaw na klaro nisita beatan jani joko administrator afagini no muna taigwinisti. Lo, one thing that I want you to understand, senators and all this committee, that it's beyond my vision to even neglect using this funding for something that it's not intended. As my administrative officer identified that these are supposed to be funding for veteran service representative, I find it hard to believe that I was not clear to instruct to hire, especially in our need. So I need to revisit where I went wrong, if I went wrong. Otherwise, I would like to for you to just. I cannot. I have to revisit where I went wrong.
I have to go to this one, and Joe, again, I need to ask if you've made the request, and Director, have you made the request? I've heard this discussion on the issue of the non-competitive wages for the VSRs. Have you ordered a desk audit on these positions and gone for an above-step recruitment?
Again, Senator, as we speak, I'm working with our personnel specialists up at DOA to revisit to match the compensation of our veteran service representatives to the national level and what is really their just pay, because right now we've identified that the current pay grade of a veteran service rep is the same and equivalent to a customer service representative. So yes, we are working to try to make that change. But again, that in itself is a whole entire process that we may not see anytime soon because of all the in-between work that needs to be done before we can get to that. But yes, we are currently working with the Department of Administration to make that change.
Please allow me this latitude, Senator, to close on this because it's been given to others on some extensive time. You know, I stand ready to fully fund the veterans to its maximum, and I stand ready to go by the audit on what it's asked for. But what I will not do is I will not get a budget from the governor and match that budget and then put $1 million in a budget process that's requested to an agency that's lapsing 40% of its budget. I need to see the performance. I need you to execute the mission. Because there's a challenge throughout the entire government for resources. And that's why I decided to go to performance-based budgeting in this next fiscal year, to match these things. So let it be clear and be known that this 38th Guam legislature and the members that didn't vote for the extra $1 million is because this is what we saw. But we're ready to give the extra $1 million. We need the performance, Joe. I believe in you, Master Guns. I was a cabinet member with you before, but I have to point these things out because these are the truth. Let's work together to get this done. I've asked you to marshal additional resources coming into your agency to help you. I used to park myself down at the front office when I needed things, and I'll either resign or get what I need. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Dueñas. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, panel, for being here this morning as well. You know, just to add on to, of course, Senator Dueñas' truth, one other truth here is we have a broken system. System is broken, and you know we're doing the same things and expecting different results at this point, and it's really appalling. And as I look, I never serve, but all of you out there serve. And a couple of days ago, of course, we can continue to salute you and thank you for the services you provided for our country. You guys swore, men and women swore to again your service for our country. You went to one place. You went to your boot camps and started your careers. But when you retired or when your time was up and you became veterans, you know, there's no one-stop place. I mean, how the veterans being treated is even worse than the one-stop to try to get clearances to build a home or even a business. And so, you know, again, I never served. My chief of staff is a vet, and so is my community liaison. And on a daily, we have veterans that come in for help, and they're frustrated with GOVA. And so our folks will help them, they either refer them to HMI, 671, whatever, and they personally walk them through whatever their needs may be. And this is no way to treat our veterans. I mean, you know, I don't, what is it going to take to fix this system? Our veterans don't deserve this. What is it going to need? How effective is GOVA at this point? Earlier you had said, you know, for people processing their claims and stuff, be careful where you go to because, you know, they might be given their whatever percentage it may be, and then months back, you know, they're going to have to pay it back. Which NGOs are not certified? Which ones? We have so many, and all of them want to help. My thing is you know, when it was talked about that GOVA and all the other NGOs that help the veterans are going to be housed at Hessler. They were all supposed to be under one umbrella, the umbrella of GOVA. But at this point, who do they go to? Where do they go? I mean, some are lucky. You know, we hear say, hey, man, I'm going to go to the Philippines because I can get my 100% faster than I get it in Hawaii. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I got a good friend of mine who's a Vietnam vet, a Marine at that, from Ordo Chalampago, double amputee, Agent Orange. I mean, he's not, double amputee, not because he's diabetes or nothing at all. Agent Orange. He went to GOVA years back. They needed his paperwork. He got frustrated. He was lucky. He's fortunate. His family can support. He's a double amputee. He's got his, legs now and all that. He said, I don't need it. I'm lucky I have it. He doesn't even have a veteran's ID. And so these are the things, again, how do we fix it? The system is broken. It's broken. We can't keep pouring money into it and saying we're going to expect a different result. I mean, if that's the magic, as the OFB chair said, if that's the magic number, it's not a money situation, it's an execution of that. And so whether we move up to the chancery and all that, I mean, regardless of where obviously, where you're at right now is not adequate. You need a new place. But regardless of where we go, if the service is not provided wherever it is that you go to, it's going to be, it won't be effective, regardless. You have all the facilities in the world and the newest equipment, whatever it may be, if the services are not being provided. And again, there are so many veterans organizations out there. And who do we go to? To get some things done? Because when I hear veterans or they come to our office, it's because of their frustration with GOVA, and not necessarily personnel, but I guess the system that's in place. So how do we fix this? How do we fix this? And I'm here to support whatever the fix may be. I mean, obviously, it's beyond just the funding.
Thank you, Senator Lujan.
Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
Senator, thank you for your input. There's no doubt that the agency has suffered many challenges. We are moving forward, I think, with the collaboration and support from this body, and aligning myself with the Veteran Commission to ensure that we do what we need to do based on the needs and the concerns of our veteran communities. I don't like to do the same thing over and over. Change. There's a movement now. And we're getting help from this body, getting help from the administration to move to a larger place. It's difficult to work down at that building in Asan. Very difficult. A lot of distraction. There's not much privacy. They walk in and the first thing, everybody knows why they're there. But there's movement. There's going to be change. And aligned with the Veterans Commission and the nonprofit organizations, we're going to move forward to be able to, again, like I said in my statement, modernize. And that's what we're doing. We're going to modernize. So thank you for that. I think Mr. Meno has a question.
We are going to take a 5-minute recess. We have to reset our recordings and the YouTube live stream. So we will be back in 5 minutes. And at that time, since we've completed questions from my colleagues, we will take public comments after this 5-minute recess.